My entitled manager wrote me up at work after he said I abandoned my post, when in reality I was rushing outside after I witnessed a car accident and I was just trying to make sure that everyone was okay. And I'm honestly still blown away by this situation because I simply cannot believe the audacity of my manager. Here's what happened. Okay, just to clarify and make sure I say this at the top of the story, I am not in the military. So this takes place when I was 20, working summer jobs while living with my parents to pay for college. I was already working full-time as a waiter at a very fun restaurant that I really enjoyed, but I wanted to make a little extra money. So I got a job as a host at another restaurant, and we'll call that restaurant Sapphire Wednesdays. Well, I knew immediately that that place was mismanaged, mostly cued in by the manager having a beer at 2 o'clock in the afternoon on a Tuesday during my interview. But regardless, my responsibilities as a host were very easy. Seat the customers, inform servers, sweep the table near the front, etc. I had already been working in restaurants since I was 16 years old, so my training was over in just about an hour. About a week after I was hired, sometime after lunch but during dinner rush, there was a car accident in front of the store. A car was sideswiped by a semi and run into a telephone pole on a busy suburban road. I told a server to call 911 and I sprinted out and across the parking lot just to check on the car. And thankfully, the woman in the car was shaken up but still fine. The truck driver was out of his truck and on the phone with 911, and other drivers had stopped as well. A very nice moment of humanity from folks on their way home from work. So I decided that everything was being handled as best as possible, so I just went back to the restaurant. I then walked back in to find the manager standing at the empty host stand in front of a nearly empty dining room, looking at me and asking, "Okay, well, where did you go?" I said to them, "Well, there was an accident. I went out to make sure everything was okay." My manager then asked me, "Well, why do you feel the need to do that?" And I'm just thinking to myself, oh, I don't know, stupid. Maybe because I'm a human being? After a brief back and forth, the manager says he has to write me up for abandoning my post. And I was too confused and angry to argue, so I just told him, okay, that's fine. He then reminded me the following: "One more write-up within your first month means that you're gonna be fired." I then went home and explained all of this to my dad, who was laughing through his anger and suggested I quit and just focus on the other job. And while I decided he was right, I also hatched a little plan. Rather than quitting, I showed up an hour late to my next shift that the same manager worked. This also happened to be Friday night during dinner, and I was the only host scheduled. Well, the manager was furious that he had to get out of the office and actually do work. So when I walked in, he saw me and immediately began berating me. I asked him if I was going to get written up for this, to which he replied, "Oh, you better believe you're gonna get written up." But then I responded by being like, "Oh no, I guess I'm getting fired. Okay, see you later." And after that, I literally went home and I drank whiskey and I smoked a cigar with my dad on the back porch just to celebrate. Dude, you know you're a crappy manager when you get pissed off at someone supposedly abandoning their post, when all the original poster was doing was running outside to make sure that no one was dead. So the fact that your manager did that and tried to be like, "Oh wow, you abandoned your post." It's like, dude, this is a restaurant. This is not some guard post in the military. Like, what are you talking about? You're not abandoning anything. You're literally trying to make sure someone's not like dead on the street. So good for you for getting out of there. And I just love the fact that you inconvenienced this guy in the process, because getting written up over something like this is absolutely insane in my opinion. And it really makes me wonder how people like that ever become a manager in the first place. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. My boyfriend mocks the fact that I drive a school bus for a living, saying that I should do more with my life and that I'm wasting my time, putting me in a situation where I'm devastated by his comments and I just don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. Okay, to start things out, I'm 36 years old and I work 2 jobs. My main job is driving a school bus for elementary kids, and on the side, I freelance as a graphic designer. I really like the balance. Driving gives me steady income and benefits too, and on the other hand, design gives me the creative freedom. It's not glamorous, but it really works for me. This past weekend, I stayed over at my boyfriend's place, and for reference, we've been together for like 8 months, and things were fine until he starts talking about my job. He said I was too smart to be wasting my life driving a bus. He then added, "Well, anyone could do that job. If you want me to take you seriously, you should quit and just focus on design." Now that statement only was very hard on me. People love to act like driving a school bus is just turning a wheel, but it's a lot more than that. I wake up before the sunrise, I do safety checks, I keep 40 kids in line, I'm dealing with traffic, the parents, the weather, literally all of that. If I mess up even once, people could get hurt. This is not something that anyone can just step into. Well, I relaxed and I tried to make him see all of that, but he just laughed in my face saying, "Oh, you make it sound like you're flying a plane. You're just driving around literally in circles and babysitting kids." And that's when I lost it. I told him he had no right to belittle me or my work, and he said I was being too dramatic and too proud of being a driver. I then packed my things and I left his house immediately. And by the way, this was at 7 o'clock in the morning on Saturday. The whole thing just keeps replaying in my head. I thought he respected me, but it turns out he thinks that my job makes me less worthy of respect. I can't stop thinking about how entitled you have to be to look down on someone just because their job doesn't sound fancy enough, even to someone that you love. He sits in an office all day while I'm the one keeping kids safe on the road, and somehow I'm the one who should feel embarrassed. It's honestly so disheartening, and I just don't know what to do. Yeah, your boyfriend is one big walking red flag, like holy crap. This guy literally said to you, what you're doing is not that hard and you should really be doing better in life. Like, dude, what are you talking about? There really is no problem with driving a school bus for kids. Like, I can't believe your boyfriend's acting like that. Like, that's really insane in my opinion. Because what he just said is completely uncalled for and you do not deserve that. My boyfriend decided that he wanted to experiment on my expensive makeup collection, as he literally wasted and broke so much of it that it's left me incredibly pissed off. And even though I confronted him and tried to explain that this was not okay, he tried to blow me off by saying that I'm just too sensitive, putting me in a situation that honestly really pisses me off. And right now I just don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. Okay, so I came home yesterday to find my makeup organizer completely messed up. My boyfriend admitted he got curious about how makeup works and decided to try using several of my expensive products. He broke an eyeshadow palette which was $45, he spilled foundation on my carpet, and left several brushes caked with product. Half of my collection was gifts from my mom and my sister for my birthday, including a limited edition palette that's now ruined. When I got upset, he just laughed and said, oh, it's just makeup, and that I'm just being too sensitive about it. I'm literally in tears because some of these products took months to save for. I would never touch his gaming equipment or even mess with his things because I respect boundaries. I've explained this to him before when he's used my skincare without asking. He thinks I'm massively overreacting because he was just curious and wanted to understand what I spend so much time on, but I just don't think it's funny at all. So am I overreacting for being upset about this? Because I am still incredibly pissed off. Okay, first and foremost, no, I don't think you overreacted because this is really messed up. You could replace the word makeup with anything else in the world and it would still be incredibly bad. And I gotta be honest, some of these makeup palettes and like the things you can buy with makeup are incredibly expensive. They're delicate, they can easily break and be completely ruined. And this guy's running in there like a toddler being like, oh, I wonder how it works. It's like, dude, of course you know how it works. Either you did this on purpose just to screw with your girlfriend, or you really are dumb and you just don't know that, hey, maybe this is something you shouldn't be messing with. And in my opinion, I think he did it on purpose. Like seriously, this seems incredibly messed up and very stupid. So no, you're not overreacting here. This is something that really does need to be addressed because what he did is completely unacceptable. Am I the jerk for choosing to spend time with my half-sister instead of with my family, all because they keep excluding her over something she had nothing to do with? Because right now my family is freaking out on me and I just don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. Okay, so my half-sister is the result of my father cheating on my mom. So it's no surprise that apart from a few aunts, uncles, and cousins, my family doesn't really like her and will oftentimes exclude her from family events. I've personally never held a grudge against her because she's the closest thing to a sibling that I have since I'm an only child, and because I just never understood taking your anger and frustration out on a child of an affair because she's a victim of the whole situation too. So I'm sure you can imagine that I hate how they pretty much just try to push her out of the family and make sure that she doesn't feel welcomed. Well, an event was coming up and it wasn't anything crazy. It was just a simple get-together, and this was about 2 weeks ago, and I just knew that they wouldn't invite my half-sister, so I just decided I wasn't going, and instead I'm just gonna hang out with her for the day. And you know what? That's exactly what I did on the day of the get-together. After a few minutes of hanging out, I get a text message from my mom asking where I was. I then just simply replied that I was with my half-sister and that I wasn't going to the get-together. Well, like 2 minutes later, my phone was blowing up with text messages and voicemails and recordings from our family members. A lot of them were just simply insults being hurled at me and my half-sister, and the others were asking why I would rather spend time with her over the entire family. I decided to wait until things cooled down before giving a response to my family. After leaving at around 10 o'clock p.m., I finally decided to text my mom and my other family members, telling them that my half-sister is part of the family in my eyes, and she shouldn't be treated like garbage for something she had no control over. Now, at this point, I haven't really gotten any kind of responses or text messages back, besides from like a few family members being stubborn and saying how I was in the wrong, but I simply haven't backed down on my opinion because this is honestly so ridiculous. So am I in the wrong in this situation? Because right now I don't know what to do. No, you are definitely not the jerk. Your family's being really weird. If there's anybody that they should be pissed off at, it's the dad for cheating, not the kid who has nothing to do with it. Like, why would you take it out on a child who literally had no say in the matter and was born into a situation that really sucks? They should be embracing them in the family, especially if they're a normal kid. Like, it doesn't sound like there's any kind of like behavior issues or anything like that. So there's really no like legitimate reason why they can't be involved in the family. So no, I think what you're doing is very kind and the thing that absolutely should be happening, because your family's being super cruel and just very mean for like literally no reason. Am I the jerk for locking my pantry up after my roommate kept giving my food away to her friends without asking me, all for free? Because at this point, I'm super pissed off and I just don't know how to deal with this situation. Here's what's going on. Okay, to start things out, I'm 23 years old and I share an apartment with my roommate who we will call Layla for the sake of the story. We've lived together for about 8 months and overall things were fine. That is, until she started treating my groceries like they were communal, like it was hers to give out as she pleased. At first, it was small things like a slice of bread, a bit of milk, so I just ignored that. Nothing really worth fighting over. But then she began hosting her friends at our place without even asking me first, and I'd usually come home to find entire bags of snacks, my coffee, and sometimes full meals just completely gone. So I finally asked her about it, and what she said to me was, "Oh, you don't mind sharing, right? It's not like you'll finish all this by yourself anyways." Now, I do meal prep for the week, so every missing container throws me completely off. In fact, last week I came back from work and literally half the dinner I cooked for the week was gone because she let her friends just help themselves. And again, when I told her I couldn't afford to feed 3 extra people, she just rolled her eyes and said I was being stingy with food. So I decided to buy a small lock for my pantry and just started keeping most of my food inside. She was furious when she noticed and said that I was making her look bad in front of her friends because according to her, normal roommates don't lock up their food. And at this point, I knew that she was pretty much already starting to feel entitled to my stuff, which really just doesn't sit well with me. And now some mutual friends are saying that I escalated things by putting a lock on it instead of just setting stricter rules. I feel like I tried that already and it didn't work, but now I'm second guessing if it was way too extreme. Man, you have a selfish roommate. She really thinks it's okay to like give out all of your food? Like, why can't she give out her own food? Like, why is she going to you and being like, "Oh, you're totally fine sharing. You're not going to finish any of this anyways." Like at that point, I would almost want to get revenge on her and like invite homeless people in the house and give her food away to them. She's treating your groceries like a charity, dude. Like, what's going on right now? So no, you're not the jerk for locking up your stuff. I quite literally would do the same thing because this is crazy. And the fact that she's offended by it and trying to be like, "Oh, you're making me look bad." Like that is so dumb and selfish. It's just not funny and it's just really annoying to deal with because what she's saying makes no sense and there's no rationale where she would ever be right. Am I the jerk for expecting my wife to visit my family for the holidays, even though she really doesn't like my family because, according to her, she says that they ruined our wedding? And at this point, I'm not sure if I'm in the wrong and I don't know what to do. Here's what's happening. So my wife and I married over 2 years ago, and she is still salty about what my parents wore to the wedding. My dad wore jeans with a blazer, and my mom wore a Patagonia-like vest under a silk shirt that was clearly visible while also wearing Crocs. I understand that was definitely not wedding-appropriate attire, and I did tell them what to wear. However, having dealt with them my entire life, I cannot say that I'm surprised. She says she is upset because our wedding photos were not nice to look at, and she never even framed them. My dad also yelled at the waiter, which was bad, yeah, but she didn't know until after the wedding, and my sister managed to get him under control, so it didn't really impact the wedding at all. And we fought about this for a few days after the wedding, but eventually it died down and we stopped discussing it, partly because my parents live 7 hours away, so she's never really interacted with them after the wedding. She then told me that she wouldn't be visiting my family, and I took it to mean that year, which was totally fine, as the memory was too fresh, but she actually meant ever again. We also had our son 8 months ago, and she refuses to come and see my parents for the holidays. I would understand if it was the fact that she just wasn't feeling well, but she's feeling amazing because she hiked for like hours the previous weekend and wants to go skiing again this season. She basically just doesn't want to interact with my family. Now, my parents are not easy to deal with. My dad is not friendly and he's bitter from being unaccomplished, so that basically left him with like a miserable attitude. However, visiting once a year and sucking it up for a few hours a day, when he hasn't even blown up or made any comments towards my wife, beyond at the beginning when he said he doesn't like her profession, and not even to her face, to me just doesn't seem unreasonable, especially for her to dislike him that much. But you know what? She refuses, and traveling with an 8-month-old is incredibly difficult. She is still breastfeeding him, but has some frozen milk built up, and thinks that I should just accept her not wanting to visit my parents by either bringing the frozen milk to feed him for a few days, or I just go alone. But I tried to tell her that it's just really rude not to at least try to get along, and if there's a fight, she won't need to interact with them again. But even then, she just straight up refuses. And so I feel like I'm being made to be the jerk for expecting her to do this, but I will say, after speaking with colleagues and close friends, most family are just a bunch of people they don't like, and most do not like their in-laws at all, and yet even still, they make an effort to at least go once a year, but my wife says they ruined her wedding photos, so she's not visiting them, which in her eyes makes them even. So am I the jerk for expecting anything out of my wife when it comes to visiting my family? Because right now I'm very frustrated and I'm not sure who's in the wrong. Okay, I think the original poster is just oblivious to the fact that their family is super toxic. Like, these people are just completely inconsiderate, they're not thinking about anyone but themselves, and they even showed up to your wedding in like the most casual attire possible. And they're also just writing off all these crappy things his dad's done, and it's like, dude, are you really just trying to excuse everything they're doing? Like, this guy has an excuse for quite literally anything they've done or they've even thought about doing, while also confessing in the same sentence that his dad was talking crap about his wife. And yet this guy's trying to be like, oh, come on, just suck it up. It's only for one day they get to treat you like garbage again in person. What's the big deal? Like, honestly, I think your wife is completely right, and I think the original poster is 100% the jerk. Because as far as I'm seeing this, like, dude, your family is toxic and they don't sound like good people, and you should not expect your wife to deal with that in the slightest. Am I the jerk for not allowing my mom to withdraw from her 401k after she had been scammed through cryptocurrency for over $1 million? Because right now, I'm honestly not sure how to get through to my mom, as I really believe she is super delusional and missing the entire point, putting me in a situation where I truly just don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. Okay, for a bit of background, my mother was sent over $1.5 million through cryptocurrency over the last 6 months through an online task scam. And through every step of this process, she has claimed that this is the last step, I swear. But then something pops up where she had no choice but to put more money into it just to retrieve all her money and more. She refuses to believe it's a scam and still has 100% confidence that it is real. Apparently, she needs to send them $30,000 within 2 weeks and has no way of obtaining this money besides withdrawing from her 401k. She has already mortgaged her cars, borrowed against her life insurance, and taken out loans against her house. From what I know, the only asset she has left is her retirement and her house, which is like a small fraction of the total value. She won't be able to sell her house within 2 weeks, so she wants to withdraw from her 401k. But because she doesn't meet the age requirement, she can't withdraw from it. She wants to do a hardship 401k withdrawal under tuition and then send that to the scammers. And I believe she would need to pay tax on it in addition to a 10% penalty for withdrawing it, all before meeting the actual age requirement. She basically would need a document from the school, which can only be obtained by the student, just to apply for her 401k hardship withdrawal, which is right where I come into play, because I'm refusing to help her get this document. From her perspective, she says that we're family and we should support each other in hard times. It's her money and she just needs my help accessing it, with her saying that she's trying to get to her own money and not mine. And once again, she says it's the last step, and if after this she still doesn't get her money, then she'll quit. She also says it's only $30,000 compared to the $1,500,000 she already put in. She has put in this last bit to get it all back, and according to her, she would rather lose $30,000 and have the peace of mind knowing they fully scammed her than thinking that she ruined other people's lives and lost her money. And from her perspective, she believes they loaned her money just to get her to pay, since she could not cover the entire amount, and that somehow if she doesn't do this, it's affecting their lives. She also added at the end of that I'm ruining her life because I'm stopping her from accessing her own money. But here's the thing, from my perspective, I just want her to quit sending money and realize it's a scam. If giving her the document would allow her to lose her $30,000 and then finally accept it's a scam, then I'm fine with that. But she has lied every step of the way, always saying it's the last step and that she will quit, but still just never does. Her promise to quit doesn't have any meaning, and if I enable her to get this money, I'm only ruining her life further when she finally accepts it's a scam. I do not want to be involved in the scam at all. Even if it's just enabling her to access her money, I don't think there will ever be an end until her money runs dry. And if I don't help her here, then this may be where her money runs dry entirely. So am I the jerk here? Because right now I don't know what to do. Okay, I'm gonna have a really hot take here, and maybe you're gonna disagree, but please let me know in the comment section. But in my mind, any kind of new cryptocurrency is probably just gonna be a scam. Like, there are so many instances where these big YouTubers and other people make this cryptocurrency, and then they rug pull their entire audience after they buy into it, and then they run off with all the money while you're stuck with nothing. Like, look at the original poster and their mom in this situation. I can't imagine being scammed over $1 million over a cryptocurrency, man. Like, what's going on right now? Like, it all just seems like some get-rich-quick scheme, and it just doesn't seem legitimate at all. So no, the original poster is not the jerk. I would never help her out in this way. She's ruining her savings all for some stupid cryptocurrency that just is never gonna go anywhere. I don't know, man. In my opinion, it just seems like cryptocurrency is like a massive scam, and I'm sure someone out there is gonna be like, no, it's not. There's so many legitimate ones out there. But like, dude, come on now. The second a YouTuber or some content creator or literally anybody says, oh yeah, we're making a new cryptocurrency coin, you guys are gonna love this. Get in now because you're gonna get rich. Anytime they say something like that, I'm I'm immediately just on high alert and I'm saying like, dude, there's no way I'm giving you a single cent of my money because chances are you're going to get all my money and then bail at the last second and I'm not going to have anything left. Like I'm going to lose all that money. Like I might as well be lighting my savings on fire, dude. Like, come on. So I don't know. It's kind of a tangent on my end. This is like a pet peeve of mine. So I really like this story because I'm right there with the original poster. Your mom has absolutely been scammed and it's super unfortunate, but it is what it is. Like you can't control her. But leave a comment down below. I would love to hear your perspective on this, whether it's about the story or just about cryptocurrency in general. Let me know in the comments section because I would love to hear what you have to say. My entitled mom stole my inheritance money by claiming it under my name and falsifying records just to get the money. And now she's refusing to give it to me, claiming that she needs it or else she's gonna be homeless. And I honestly don't know what to do. So I found out earlier this year that I was supposed to receive around $160,000 in inheritance money when my father passed away. I found out by looking into a cabinet in our house. I was compelled to do so because my mother acts rich or poor whenever it suits her, as well as showing other really strange behavior. I found a letter that was addressed specifically to me from the life insurance company that had my inheritance. All I needed to do was submit some paperwork and they'd give me a check. I'm not sure how, but my mother somehow submitted documents for me and even cashed the check that was in my name. I'm also not sure why she felt entitled to do that when she got nearly $500,000 in inheritance herself. When I confronted her about it, she obviously did not take it well. She was very adamant that it was her money, up until I informed her that after I found the documents, I called the life insurance company and received photocopies of the check, as well as the submitted documents. After I told her that, she tried negotiating with me, stating that she can give me $10,000 to start with, and then $2,000 every month. But I said no. I said she will guilt trip me into delaying her payments if we go that route. She then tells me that she will be homeless if I get all the money at once. I eventually make her show me her bank statements. And as far as I know, she has around $330,000 in her bank account. In addition, she's been making six figures with her job for the past 3 years, so there's no way she would be homeless. She is completely lying. I told her I need a good amount of money if I want to have any chance of moving out. I wanted to move out with my friend, but my mom took way too long to give me any money. I received $50,000 from her, and like a week or so later, she started asking if she could borrow $20,000 for a month. She claims that she needs it in her bank account so that the lender can approve the condo or the house that she wants to buy. She asked if I would be okay, and I stupidly told her that I'd be getting grants from school too. She then wanted to borrow $20,000 on top of the grant money by passive-aggressively mentioning it whenever she could. A few weeks later, she forced me to go with her to the bank to withdraw the $20,000. And this was back on October 3rd. On November 23rd, I asked her to give me $2,000. I told her it's been 2 months and I want a portion of it back. She then gives me the silent treatment, and the next day I try calling her, but she just starts crying hysterically. She says things like, "I knew I shouldn't have trusted you with money. What are you gonna do with it? Spend it all on illegal substances? You're just gonna use it for gambling, right? Why are you being so mean? You ruined my holiday and you ruined my life. You're being abnormal. You're just doing this because you're behind in life and you're desperate. I spent so much money on food the past month that I just can't do it." And excuses like this kept happening over and over again. A couple of days later, we have a 4-hour argument. During this argument, I was so disgusted with her behavior that I told her I want nothing to do with her. A couple of days after that, to my surprise, she comes into my room and asks me for a hug. She starts crying and says that she just suppresses all her thoughts and feelings. She says she'll give me $500 now and then $500 on December 2nd. I mean, what is going on? I swallow my anger for a couple of days, but then I could no longer hold it in. I wasn't giving her the silent treatment, but I wasn't looking at her or initiating any form of talking. She starts to notice this and asks me what's wrong, but she automatically starts screaming, "It's the money, isn't it?" And then repeats the same thing she did the last time, going through all these excuses, implying that I'm gambling or that I'm just using it for stupid reasons. And again, she made it very clear that she wants to buy a condo or a house. I told her that I'm mad at her because she she told me that she needed the $20,000 for a month, and it's now been over 2 months, and she is still not giving that money back. After this, she started acting like she was about to cry, and then she left the house. She then transferred me another $500, and after that, I haven't talked to her since. It infuriates me that she thinks she's entitled to this money. I mean, why would she need a house in the first place? And this money was only in her account in the first place because she committed fraud. But now, once I let her borrow some money, she's going to treat it like some kind of allowance. It's my money. Legally, it's absolutely mine, and she needs to get over it. She already has $500,000 before she took my money. Since I was 18, I've been working minimum wage jobs. She made it so clear as day that she thinks her needs are way above mine. I don't have utilities, I don't even have a career yet, so I am much less important. Even if that's factually true, I'm your child and that money is legally mine. Another example of her entitlement was when I was 19 years old. I was working at a tutoring place in addition to a restaurant, all while taking 16 units in college with no car. I was leaving the house one day to go get a haircut, and my mom then asked me, where do you think you're going? And when I told her that I was going to get a haircut, she said verbatim, really? You're supposed to be using that money to help me. That's honestly how entitled she is. At this point, she has received a total of $660,000, while her child, who is a full-time student with 2 jobs and no car, is not important enough to use the money they earned from their job to get a haircut. I'm so mad, and I just have this huge problem that really needs to get taken care of. But I hate making people uncomfortable. This is also why I usually cannot blindside a person by randomly bringing up an issue. I usually have to text them first, but I'm starting to think that that's never a good idea. This is all so frustrating, and I simply don't know what to do. Listen to me very carefully. You really do need to get a lawyer and take care of this legally. This is actually unbelievable. She is manipulating you left and right, and she falsified documents and stole your money. You have a legal right to this money, and if I was in your shoes, I definitely would escalate this further and seek some kind of legal counsel who can properly help you navigate this situation. That is not unreasonable. If anything, it's probably necessary, because you can bet she's going to string you along for the rest of your life, and pretty soon that money's going to dry up and you will never see a cent of it. She literally committed fraud at your expense, and if you're not careful, this very easily could come against you one day. So in my opinion, it's time to seek an attorney who can help you with the nuances of a case like this, because this is a very serious issue, and I think it's about time, especially based on her behavior, to start taking this situation seriously and seek legal advice. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, linked down below in the description. An entitled Karen demands that I give her my personal food items just so she can try and enjoy her breakfast a little bit more. And when I tell her that I'm not doing that and she can't have my property, she files a complaint against me online, implying that I was rude and denied her some kind of service. But I got the last laugh as I was allowed to respond online, and in the process, I put her right in her place. Here's what happened. When it comes to working at a hotel, guests in the morning are something else. Some are sleepy and or friendly in the morning, and some of them are cranky, but some are just plain garbage. Usually I work afternoon shift, since that was the shift I worked when I was in college, and I have the most experience with it. I have worked all 3 shifts before, even having a few months when I worked all 3 shifts in 1 week. It all depended on who was on our staff at the time. During this stretch of time, I was just needed for afternoons, but had occasional mornings that I did work. This particular day, I was scheduled for a morning and an afternoon, making it in total a 16-hour shift. I don't mind these, as management doesn't mind if I slack off as long as I get all my tasks done, which I usually knock out before the end of the first half. Since I knew I would be working that long and I was ready to go with time to spare, I decided to stop at McDonald's to pick up some breakfast. I was planning on getting their breakfast burritos, so I brought a small bottle of hot sauce. The way our hotel is set up, it has an open area for breakfast right across from the front desk, so I can see all of breakfast and the guests can't see me working at my desk. This is very useful since we didn't have a breakfast attendant working that day, and the front desk is in charge of cleaning, restocking, and everything else for breakfast. It was slow when I got in. Barely anyone was eating breakfast that day. I went to the breakfast area and checked if we are low on anything or if I need to clean anything. I'm chatting with one of our long-term stay guests as I'm sweeping some cereal off the floor, and all is good. After I finish all that and start a new pot of coffee to replace the one that's about to run out, I start going back to the desk when a mother and a daughter come to breakfast. I say good morning morning as we pass each other, and she says it back. They go get some food, and I do some of my shift start jobs and check on the checkout list. I start eating my burrito with the hot sauce while standing at the back of the wall of the front desk, clearly away from the computers, as that's one of the rules while we're eating. After a few minutes going to town on the burrito, the mother comes up to the desk. I put the food down next to the bottle of hot sauce and address her. How can I help you, ma'am? Is there any hot sauce for the burritos? As a side note, we don't have any hot sauce for breakfast, mostly because there aren't really any options for it. We don't have scrambled eggs that they can be used for, and we have breakfast salsa for the burritos. I explain that we have breakfast salsa, but we don't have any hot sauce. She then points to my hot sauce and says, "What's that? That looks like hot sauce." I say, "Yes, it is, but it's my personal hot sauce that I brought from home." She then points at it and says, "Give me that then." Yes, she didn't ask me if she could use it. She demanded. Even if she did ask nicely, I still wouldn't give it to her because of sanitary reasons. I kept putting hot sauce on my burrito as I ate, and I know for a fact that the opening of the bottle hit that area where my saliva was all over it. I look at her and I say, "I'm sorry, but I cannot do that because of sanitary reasons." But this entitled Karen was not having it. She says, "That is absolute garbage. I've never stayed at a hotel where hot sauce wasn't provided at breakfast." And this is actually false, as we have breakfast salsa out there for her to use, which counts towards the requirement that hot sauce falls under as well. It's not even an hour into my long shift, and I was already regretting the day. I say to her, "Again, you are welcome to use the breakfast salsa, but I cannot give you this hot sauce as it's my personal bottle, and I definitely had my saliva all over it." Bear in mind too, this wasn't a new bottle. I bought it a few weeks ago. It was about 3/4 of the way gone already, and there was dried up hot sauce all over the threads of the wooden cap and opening. And after I said that, she left to go finish breakfast with her daughter. After a few more minutes, she returns to the desk to check out. As I'm checking her out, she asked me for my name, and after I told her this, I knew it was going straight to corporate and that she would file an online complaint, which was fine, since I was one of the few people who have access to the response feature on there, despite not being a manager by title. Or if she called corporate, I knew it would be quelled by stating that the guest was demanding something that I paid for with my own money, of which the hotel did not own. Sure enough, a few hours later, there was a review from this entitled Karen. The scores were fine except for friendliness of staff, as well as the breakfast, which honestly is not a shocker. In her comments, she said the following: "There was no hot sauce for burritos, only salsa, and the original poster at the front desk was rude when I asked for the hot sauce that he had behind the desk, claiming he couldn't give it to me for sanitary reasons. He should not have been hoarding the hot sauce bottle. The hotel needs better staff that would bend their back for the guest." Immediately, I asked in the staff group chat, which had our owners and managers in it, if I could respond to this one, since it happened to me on my shift, and thankfully they said to go for it, but they do need to read what I say first. After reading staff notes on her reservation, including the previous ones, here's basically what I wrote, which management loved right away. I said, "I'm sorry if you were not satisfied during your stay here at our hotel. Please know that we try to make every guest feel special. If you felt unsatisfied about anything else, like if we should have kept the pool open an extra 45 minutes instead of the half hour we did for you, please let us know so we can do better. As for the issue on hand, we spoke to the front desk agent about the situation, as he was misinformed about our guest policies, specifically with breakfast. It would have been a health code violation on par with spitting in the food if he gave you the hot sauce, not just for sanitary reasons. Thank you for bringing that to our attention. He now has a more accurate reason in the future to why he cannot give personal food items to guests. In the meantime, we replaced his personal bottle of hot sauce with a new one. Have a good day." And that was truly the best kind of revenge I possibly could have asked for. Good for the original poster for basically getting the last word in. I mean, how entitled do you have to be to start demanding stuff that is the personal property of the employee that you're trying to shake down? I mean, what kind of weirdo acts like that? They clearly are just entitled and want to have everything their way, and they're going to make you as miserable as possible until you bend to their will, which is honestly so toxic. But good for this original poster for standing up for themselves, because you know what? They probably would have been fired if they handed over that bottle, and you can bet that entitled Karen would not have cared for a second if you lost your job. My mom is very reliant on me for just about everything, ever since I was just a kid, and now I'm not sure if she's taking advantage of me, or if I should stick around just to make sure that she's taken care of, and I honestly don't know what to do. So I'm a 24-year-old female female, and I have a great relationship with my mom, who's retired. I live with her and my brother, and I have been all my life. We talk, we share, and she's been very supportive of my career and helps me out a lot when I'm not okay, which sadly is pretty often. I've done everything I've wanted without complaints. I've gone out, I've had boyfriends, parties. I was still pretty shy, so it wasn't crazy, and she trusted me. There's fighting, a regular amount, but it's nothing too serious. Sometimes she wakes me when I miss my alarm or helps me with money, so I feel indebted to her. And her cooking is kind of terrible, to be honest. Recently, my grandmother, who's not that old, got really sick. Thankfully, it was just a scare. But ever since, she's moved into my room. For a couple of days, I've been co-sleeping on my mom's bed, the floor, or my brother's bed if he's working a night shift. And that's honestly not a big deal in my culture. Although it's just for some time, it's getting to me. I am tired and I have to go to work early, but even still, I feel like it's something I should do to try and help out. But here's the thing. I recently talked to a friend, and it sort of hit me how often I do what I am supposed to do for the family, and how scared I am to leave my mother on her own because I know she couldn't handle it herself. For example, my grandparent had this medical emergency and she called me, who was at work in a different city, instead of an ambulance. So I would call it instead. Some years ago, when my father passed away, I was the one talking to doctors and lawyers and signing stuff while she was the one just crying. It was awful. I just lost my dad, yet I had to take care of it all on my own, and I never complained. This is just 2 examples of many that I could think of off the top of my head. I've always had to deal with these kinds of things, whether it's simple like calling an electrician, or paying family debt, or planning a funeral. Because I'm the responsible and grounded one, I'm the one that has to do it. And it really begs the question, is this fair? I've been mothering her since I was about 16 years old, and planned my first funeral by my grandfather at that time. And I only realized it now that when I needed help, but I had no one to turn to, it was because I've always been the grown-up in this family. A friend told me that the only way she got over something similar was moving out, and that honestly frightens me, because I don't know if my mom is unable to cope with stressful situations, or if she's even just unable to perform certain tasks, because it honestly just feels like she just can't do any of this. She isn't evil, so I don't understand why she would do that to me, but this is constant. I wouldn't want anyone to get unnecessarily hurt by me drifting away from her. I'm honestly questioning if me helping is good or bad, and it honestly just makes me more sad. Maybe I'm just overthinking a regular part of life that we all experience. I just honestly feel that I've missed out on some of my 20s, and this is way more than people my age do for their parents. Am I the problem here? Does anybody have any experience similar to what I'm dealing with? I honestly think I'll move out eventually, but I can't imagine her caring for herself without my help. What should I do? Honestly, this is a really tricky situation because I can completely understand where you're coming from. You want to make sure that your mom is able to take care of herself and that she's able to handle all these stressful things that go on in her life. But to be completely honest, I think you need to know that she really can't handle this by herself. I mean, for 30 plus years, she grew up without you, and a lot of the things that you feel the need to step up and take care of, she most definitely knows how to do. So I really would not feel guilty about moving on and moving out. There really is no shame in doing that unless you really do plan on living with your mom for the rest of your life, which at this rate, you saying, oh, I'll move out eventually, really will never happen. So thinking about yourself in this situation might just be the best thing not only for you, but also for your mom to step up and be the adult that she already was before you were born. It's not fair for you to be shackled to your mom like that, but I also recognize that there might be some nuance to the culture that you come from, where staying with your parents for the rest of your life really isn't that unusual. So I think considering your circumstances, I would just go about this in the best way that's appropriate for your situation. I know that my husband is cheating on me, but as of right now, I simply cannot leave, and I don't know what to do. So my husband and I have been married for 4 years, and were previously dating for 2 years. We originally met in college, and were friends for around 3 years before we got together. So we have known each other for around 9 years in total. And in those 9 years, I didn't expect anything like this to happen. I'm 29 years old, and he is 30 years old. So about 2 months ago, my husband was acting a bit strange. And by strange, I mean he's usually very touchy, since physical touch is his love language. He wouldn't be as talkative when he got home from work. Even on his off days, he would be in his office at home, which he usually hates being locked up in his office. When he doesn't have work stuff to do in there on his days off, and he wouldn't let me come into the office to check up on him. I confronted him about it, and he said it was just the stress from his job, which I could understand, as he is the money provider in our family. Now, for a bit of context, I don't work because I'm currently 7 months pregnant. Otherwise, I would be working at my tech job. Anyways, when it came to his office, I believed him, and afterwards he was back to being normal. But it happened again, and this time he was being more secretive around his devices, going out every other weekend, as well as other really suspicious things. Jump to 2 weeks ago, and he was out again on the weekend, yet he left his office unlocked where his iPad and his laptop were. I finally got curious, and I decided to look through them. And I know what you're thinking, I shouldn't be snooping around on my husband's private stuff, but curiosity got the best of me, and it was the only time I could check on his device without him noticing. I opened up his laptop first, and I went straight to his emails and files. He doesn't like to listen to me when I tell him that all his passwords really should be different, but still easy to remember in case someone tries to hack him. But he simply doesn't listen to that advice, so it was easy getting into locked files with his one password. I then stumbled upon a file titled AT plus JT. I got curious, as AT are his initials, and surprise, surprise, it was locked with the same password that he uses for everything. I opened it to find loads of pictures and videos with some other girl. I was shocked. I didn't think he would actually do anything like this to me. I started crying hysterically as I scrolled through all these videos and pictures. I clicked on the last one, which was the first one he ever added to the file. I looked at the date, and it was just 2 weeks after we found out I was pregnant. I closed the file as I simply couldn't handle it, seeing my husband spend some quality time with a woman that I've never met, all while I was either at home or work, or pregnant with our baby. I had simply just seen enough, and the whole scenario made me sick to my stomach. I got ready for bed while still crying, and eventually fell asleep. He woke me up about 2 hours later on accident. He apologized and said that he didn't mean to wake me up, and I just ignored him and went back to sleep. I am being paid on maternity leave, but it's not enough to support myself and a baby if I leave, not even mentioning a divorce lawyer. Ever since I found out, I have been doing the most I can, making or ordering dinners, cleaning the house when I can, and not bothering him when he goes and secretly cheats on me, even though I know all about it. I don't know what to do. I simply feel stuck. I've told my mom and my siblings about it, and my brother says I can move in with him until things are settled, but I don't know how to confront my husband. My sister suggested that they all come over when it happens so that I am safe, which is what I probably will do. Yet I don't have the proper funds for a divorce lawyer. All I know for now is that I need to leave before I give birth to our baby boy. This is all so unfortunate, and I just don't know what to do. What a terrible situation. The original poster is not only pregnant with a baby of 7 months, but their husband is actively cheating on them pretty much constantly, and that is so unbelievably toxic. So I'm truly sorry for all that you're going through right now. That's really unfair. But it sounds like you have a good plan going, and you've got a lot of options. You mentioned how your brother would be willing to help you move into his place in the meantime, at least until you get things figured out. So that's definitely a solid option you could look into. And also there's a situation where you could confront him about this and have your whole family there as well for backup. I mean, that is a very distinct possibility that you could pursue. But with whatever path you decide to take, I really hope things work out for you and your child, because what you're going through is absolutely unfair. And it's such a shame that your husband is making this terrible decision at the expense of you and your future child. An entitled Karen gets thrown out of the store I work in because she refused to put on a mask no matter what, stating that she was exempt from having to wear one, demanding that we bend the rules to her specifically. But after she gets kicked out of the store for being an absolute nuisance and refusing to follow the rules, she calls us back and threatens to sue us. And I am honestly blown away by the level of entitlement that this lady exhibited. Here's what happened. So this story was from back when the sickness was at its peak. I will first preface this with an explanation of the laws here, as laws change in different locations, and I want to avoid people making assumptions on what is or isn't correct for the laws where I live. When it comes to where I live, when masks are mandatory, you can get a fine for not wearing one when you're supposed to. Some people are exempt, but that exemption just means that the police can't fine you for not wearing a mask. And this exemption is also just a verbal thing. The government doesn't issue certificates or even a license or anything else stating that you have an exemption. You can just say, hey, I've got an exemption, and that's that. A police officer can't fine you. In the rare case that they still fine you, you can fight the fine. Then it becomes an issue of proving the exemption, but as long as it's valid, it's not a battle. The fine will be instantly revoked. However, it should be noted that private businesses here can refuse service to anyone for any reason, which then leads to the entitled Karen of this story. So here we go. The owner of the shop I work at happened to be in that day. He had a newborn son, roughly a month old, so he was very protective and enforced the mask restrictions to the extent that he could. And that's about when the entitled Karen walks in without a mask. He politely asked her to wear a mask, but she refused. If you're not going to wear one, I'm going to have to ask you to leave since you're not complying with our regulations. And that sent her over the edge. I don't have to wear a mask. I have an exemption. She shouts this out as she pulls out a piece of paper. As mentioned, no government body here issues any kind of paperwork that says that a person doesn't need to wear a mask. You either have one or you don't. It's all verbal. For example, you don't get a certificate just to prove that you have asthma or whatever. It's ridiculous, and this Karen honestly thought that her fake printout would fool anyone. Even if the government did issue physical exemption notices, they definitely wouldn't print them on plain paper. At the very least, it would at least be laminated. The owner didn't mention the mangled paper that she pulled out from her handbag. He just reiterated that she had to leave. He mentioned his newborn baby, explained that having an exemption doesn't make you immune, and that she can still spread the virus. After a couple more back and forths, she eventually just left in a huff. And I was lucky enough to witness the whole thing, and I thought it was hilarious. But my luck ran out as the entitled Karen called back that very afternoon, and I was the unlucky human that picked up the phone. I'll break down the conversation as efficiently as I can. I answer the phone, and she says, "Hi, I was in today when I was rudely kicked out of the store for not wearing a mask, despite having an exemption. Unless you sell me what I came in for at a steep discount, I'm gonna sue you." I cut her off there and I said, "Let me stop you right there. I witnessed the whole thing and you have no grounds for a lawsuit. Firstly, your fake piece of paper doesn't mean anything. Secondly, as a private business, we have the right to refuse service to anyone for any reason, even if you did have an exemption. That only protects you from getting fined, and we are well within our rights to refuse your service." And before I could continue, she starts screaming about how she has a right to shop anywhere she wants, screaming for me to stop explaining what I'm saying and that she shouldn't have to wear a mask. After listening to this go on and on, I just slammed the phone into the receiver as hard as I can about 3 times. I wasn't going to get into a screaming match with this entitled Karen. I look up from my desk though, and I see the owner staring at me. I explained to him that it was the same lady from the store earlier, and he completely understood. Then at that moment, she rang back up again. We have caller ID and I recognized the number immediately, so I picked it up and said, "Are you ready to calm down?" She responded by saying, "You're extremely rude and I demand to speak with a manager." I responded by saying, "I am the manager." She was stunned in silence for a second. I then said, "You could speak to the owner if you want," to which she promptly said that she did. At that point, I realized that she had no clue that she spoke to the owner in the store that morning, so I passed the phone to him and he had a chat with her. I was hoping he would have some fun with her, but I suppose he was just more mature than I am. I won't get into what they spoke about because I only heard what he had to say, but it ended up with him saying, "I won't stop you from leaving a negative review online, but we are a small business, and that stuff really can affect us, so I really hope you could reconsider." At the end of the day though, it was all empty words on this entitled Karen's part, because she never did sue us, and in the end she never did leave that negative review, and hopefully she just never comes back ever again. What an absolute psychopath. Talk about being incredibly entitled and acting as if the rules don't apply to you. Like seriously, if you go into a store and they're asking you to wear a mask, then you definitely need to wear one. And this is especially important since this story happened during the peak of the pandemic. I mean, is it really that hard to put on a mask and follow the rules? Some people really are convinced that the world just revolves around them, and that's unfortunate because that level of entitlement really will get you absolutely nowhere. So hopefully this entitled Karen learned her lesson, that no, she can't just demand to get whatever she wants and expect people to bend to her will, especially if she's going to be that rude and disturbing. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. My boyfriend still lives at home with his parents at the age of 40, and I honestly don't know what to think of it, and I don't know if this is a breaking point for our relationship. So I am dating a guy who just turned 40 years old. We get along great and have been together for around a year and a half. It's kind of hit me that it feels a bit strange that he lives at home with his parents, as well as his younger brother. I'd understand if he was somebody who was looking after his parents or something like that, but the rest of his siblings are either married with kids, and I think they have their own home home too, or they are in their early 20s, so I suppose it doesn't seem as bad for them to live at home. My boyfriend also can't cook. He can't use the washer, so I'm assuming his mother cooks, cleans, does his washing all for him. I know this because he'll say things like, I'm gonna see what's been made at home for dinner, and stuff like that. When getting to know him a year ago, he'd talk about living at home, but I thought maybe it was just him and his parents, and he takes care of them or something like that. Not that his brothers live there as well, and sometimes his nephews, and also that my boyfriend doesn't have any lifestyle skills, even though he has a secure job and makes enough money to not depend on anybody else. It is a bit of a turnoff, to be completely honest, of how he really is not that independent. He has also shown his immaturity as well, and this comes out when we have a debate, and he absolutely won't change his mind or even apologize if he's done something wrong, but I'm guessing it's due to his age and the fact that he's had that mentality for so long. I really am not sure that anything would make him change it. I don't know if I'm overthinking, but I feel like he is dependent on living with his parents and that he might be too afraid to live on his own or something like that. There has been times where he wouldn't want to stay at my house because he doesn't want to walk into my house the next day or go out too late that night in case they think that he's been somewhere. I mean, he is a 40-year-old man, and it's not like they don't let him out or anything like that. It just comes down to the fact that he doesn't want to do that. So I find that part very strange. Like, let's say he comes over to my place. We'd watch movies, we'd spend some time together, maybe like 1 to 2 hours, and then he would leave because he needs to get home for literally no other reason a majority of the time. Like, he just doesn't have a solid reason why he doesn't want to stay out later. I feel like he thinks he's a man's man because he works out, makes good money, but he genuinely doesn't have any skills or goals or other things to show for it. As in, he's too stuck in his ways and acts like he's somebody that doesn't need to have goals. And he does this in such an arrogant way, talking like he is better than everybody else without really saying it. Maybe I'm overreacting here, but it honestly feels very strange that he's still living at home, and I honestly don't know what to think of this situation. I definitely see where the original poster is coming from. This guy is 40 years old and he still lives with his parents, and I think the original poster has it right. It really would be different if there was some kind of extenuating circumstance surrounding around why he was still living at home, but it seems like he's very dependent on living with them to some degree, and he really just enjoys the security of having somebody at home, or maybe something along those lines. I don't know. It definitely seems like a weird situation in general. He has a stable job, and he's got the money to live on his own and basically do whatever he wants, and yet he still lives at home and seems so dependent on his parents. So it does make sense, in my opinion, that you would be worried and concerned about this aspect of his life. Also, the way he acts and how immature he can be when it comes to like debates or arguments of some kind, in my opinion, is kind of a red flag, if you will. Like, how does he not have the emotional maturity to at least admit when he's wrong or to apologize when he makes a mistake? Like, is it really that hard to say, I'm sorry and I'm gonna do better? Especially when there's something legitimate that you did that's really wrong? Either way, it really does sound like the original poster is trying to find the best fit for some kind of future spouse. And if this guy still lives at home at the age of 40 and comes off as being incredibly emotionally immature, then I think some work really needs to be done if you ever see this as an extended relationship. My mother-in-law is angry at my kids that they ate some of her groceries, and despite correcting her and putting her in her place, she decided to still be nasty with me and slam the doors and yell at my kids. And now I honestly don't know what to do. So I have 3 kids, ages 12, 8, and 4 years old. They are good, healthy children that do well in school. They also love their paternal grandma very much. My mother-in-law came down this month to spend the holidays with the family. She lives far away, so we don't see her often. We have a big home, so I sat her up in a nice room in the house. Shortly after she arrived, she offered me her food card. I declined several times, as my family doesn't need assistance with food. I instead thought that she should just keep it. However, she insisted and said she wanted to buy treats for the kids and that it was Christmas for all, as she puts it. Fast forward to last weekend, and I came home from work. The kids all rushed me and asked if they could have a family movie night and watch Home Alone and drink some hot chocolate. I thought it was a great idea, and so I agreed. So I told them to start making their drinks while I changed clothes. In the other room, I overheard my grandma come into the room and start scolding them. She said,
I knew you would all do this. You've really started something, you know that? I'm never gonna buy hot chocolate again.
When I heard that, I was shocked. So I came out of my room and I said, you know what? Don't worry about it. I will replace it in the morning. After I said that, she just rolled her eyes and went into her room. The next morning, I went to the grocery store before work and bought a bunch of snacks and replaced replaced her hot chocolate that my kids had drinking. I then instructed my children to only eat what I bought and then went to work. Around lunchtime, I started getting text messages from my kids telling me that their grandma wouldn't let them eat the food. They told me that they let her know that I bought them food, but she replied by saying that no, I actually only bought it with her food card. She went further to tell them that they act like they have to eat all the time, which is really inappropriate. At this point, I called her and let her know that I did not use her food card, and that if she didn't want the kids to eat what she had bought, then she should bring it into her room and also not buy them any more food. After I said that, she just straight up hung up on me. Afterwards, I started getting messages from my kids that they were scared and that their grandma was slamming doors and yelling that she is never coming back to our house again. The kids were crying at this point and scared of what their grandma would do. I had my husband call his mother, and I don't know what was said, but when I got home, she wouldn't even look at me, let alone speak to me in the first place. I honestly want her to go home. I'd even buy her the ticket. I don't trust her around my kids while I'm at work, and she is the one that chose to take this issue about food out on the children without even having spoken a word to me about it. I'm not sure if I would have even discovered it if I didn't accidentally hear her yelling at my kids. My husband wants me to just let it go, but I feel like something is very wrong with this situation. The way this mother-in-law was acting in this situation is incredibly inappropriate. If you're a guest at somebody's house, you need to abide by their rules and be on your best behavior. I don't care how old you are. It's so inappropriate to start yelling at other people's kids, especially when they are blatantly not touching your stuff. It'd be different if they were going through all of your things and causing a lot of chaos at your expense. Then, in that case, I really would understand you getting on their case and saying, hey, you need to cut it out and stop touching my food. But in this regard, that just wasn't what was happening. And if anything, this weird grandma was just having some kind of power trip, and thankfully the mom was there to try and put her in her place. And I'm honestly with the original poster in that situation. If you're gonna go around yelling at my kids and slamming doors, all because you're upset that I put you in your place, then I think you've gotta go. So if I was in your shoes, I would be looking at local hotels she can kick it at. That way she can enjoy as much of her food as she wants, and she won't have any excuse to try and yell at your kids. Today I messed up by hugging and kissing a girl that I only just met that night, and I later found out that that girl is actually my best friend's girlfriend, and I had no idea, and now everyone is furious with me, and I honestly don't know what to do. So to start things off, I'm from Argentina, and yesterday my country won the World Cup, and there were obviously lots of celebrations. At night, I went to a small party with some friends. One of my friends invited his new girlfriend and her friends, and I didn't know any of them. When the girls arrived, I saw my friend start a conversation with one of them, and I didn't see him with any of the others, so I assumed that was his girlfriend. The night developed and we got to play beer pong. We were having lots of fun and I got a little drunk, but nothing out of the ordinary. On my side of the table, I was playing alongside two of the girls, none of which were the one I thought was my friend's girlfriend. It felt to me like we all got confident with one another while we were playing. One of the girls stood right next to me shoulder to shoulder, and both of us were making jokes and snarky remarks to one another, and I really thought she was into me. At least that is what I felt at the moment. I guess I must have really gotten confused. Meanwhile, my friend, the one with the girlfriend, tried to get to play on our team, but the girls and I didn't let him play at first, and made some jokes just to try and annoy him. But in the end, we let him play. He got in between me and the girl, and I didn't think too much about it. The game went on until the opposing team had only one glass left. The girl I thought was into me scored the game-winning ball, and this is where the really stupid part comes in, and this is exactly where I messed up. In celebration, I hugged her and kissed her on the cheek. I had just met this girl, and as I'm writing this, I can't stop thinking how on earth I could have been so out of place. That's not like me at all. It would be easy to blame the alcohol, but I wasn't so drunk. All I can say is that I'm a complete idiot. Luckily, the girl didn't take it badly. I guess she must have thought it was weird, but didn't really say anything about it. At the time, I just didn't pay much attention to the whole thing, and I honestly just forgot about it. After that, we chatted and played some other dumb party games, but nothing else of note really happened. I got back home kind of early, and my best friend gave me a ride home. He is not the friend with a girlfriend, mind you. On the ride back, he told me I should be more careful, and that the girl I kissed was my friend's girlfriend. Apparently, he had told the guys he was mad at me for how I behaved. His anger is totally justified, of course. I immediately texted him and told him that I got confused, and I didn't know that she was his girlfriend. He texted back later later and told me that he wasn't going to forgive me. Then he blocked me on every social media that we have. Today, I got word from my best friend that everyone is still mad with me. These guys were my only friends. I only chose to go to this party because I felt like I was drifting away from them, and I didn't want that to happen. Instead, I made everyone mad by kissing my friend's girlfriend. I messed up by getting all my friends angry with me, and I honestly don't know how I'm gonna recover from this one. This situation really sucks. You were clearly under the influence and you made a terrible decision. You thought the girl standing next to you was just some single lady that didn't have any kind of boyfriend to account for, and unfortunately you made the bad decision of kissing her on the cheek after she won the game-winning ball in beer pong, mind you. Like, even at its best, that's really not the time to start kissing people on the cheek, especially when you really don't know them in the first place. I think I could win the lottery and I still wouldn't start kissing people on the cheek. So I think that's just a bit of an overreaction, to be completely honest. But it's not an overreaction for the boyfriend to be upset about you. The best thing you really can do is just wait for the dust to settle. They are clearly upset about this in the moment, obviously, but I think if you just give it time, maybe things can settle down and you can have some kind of friendship once again. It's also a little strange that your best friend didn't introduce you to his girlfriend. Like, don't you think that would be important for him to do? But either way, hopefully this all works out for you, because this honestly seems like an innocent mistake, and hopefully this doesn't completely ruin your friendships, since it sounds like you guys go really far back. Today I messed up by not knowing that deleting a dating app does not delete your profile, and now I'm in trouble with a girl I just started dating who thinks I'm still shopping around while we are still getting to know each other. Here's what happened. So I lucked out and I met a smoking hot, super cool heavy metal girl with gorgeous tattoos through a dating app. She is totally my thing, but I was always intimidated by women like that. She is kind of out of my league, especially since I have a kid from a previous marriage. However, my text message game has been strong, even if my in real life game is quite weak. And this is especially after being married for almost 13 years. I've got a pretty good face, and she thinks I'm awkward but still kind of cute. So we meet once for what the young people call a vibe check, and I think, well, that's that. She's probably gonna ghost me now. My ego is trashed after my divorce, despite it being a year ago and one rebound later, so I have no confidence left inside me. However, the flesh and spirit are still willing in the face of failure, so I still have my apps up, and I fiddle with my dating profile a bit over the next day, thinking maybe I'll do better with the next woman that I date. However, out of the blue, she says that the vibes are good, and then in utter surprise, she says that she wants to hang out with me a lot more. I'm basically like, absolutely. And so as a result, I deleted these applications before our second meeting, thinking that it might be handy to not have these dating apps on my phone. It might be premature, sure, but I was enthusiastic. Fast forward a bit, and after a few weeks, she says she deleted her apps and disabled her profiles. And I say, I did the same, I deleted them. So, at a friend's work Christmas party, people keep asking what I look like and what I do. Now, we are friends on Facebook, but those pictures are heavily curated to show me with my daughter or me in a well-dressed and buttoned-down scenario. I guess she wanted the spicier photos with good angles, not me giving swim instructions to a 4-year-old. So she re-downloads the dating app and re-enables her profile, assuming my stuff is still in her messages. And then boom, not only is my profile still on there, but I had updated the pictures just after our first meeting. Also, mind you, it's about 3 in the morning and she's had one too many, and that's about when my phone goes off. I wake up to her saying, "So, you updated your profile after we met and after you said it was deleted? Whatever, dude, I guess it's okay." And at this point, I'm just confused. I immediately Googled why my dating app profile is still there, even after I deleted it. And yeah, you guessed it, this is a massive fail on my end. And I very quickly found out that just because I deleted the application, it didn't mean that I had taken down my profile. And this wasn't just the dating app that I met this girl on. Literally all the dating apps that I had been on were all still up. So now I'm sitting here sleepless, having done as much damage control as possible, with a girl of my dreams who thinks I'm a serial dater at worst or a straight up lurker at best. I'm pretty sure she probably blasted me to her friends, which I was hoping to meet very soon. So yeah, I messed up pretty bad, and I think I screwed this one up beyond repair. Yeah, that definitely really sucks. You finally get with a woman that you're absolutely in love with and that you really connect with in some kind of way, only for her to get the wrong impression from you pretty much from the get-go. And that really sucks because you finally met someone that you really do like, and it's all probably gonna go up in smoke right before your eyes. So I think maybe explaining to her what happened and saying, hey, it's not what you think, like, this is all a misunderstanding and this is why this is still up. Something to that extent might be able to save this situation, but I gotta be honest, it's not looking good. And you're right, she most definitely blasted you to all of her friends. And there's a good chance that she probably is making fun of you behind your back. So hopefully she'll understand where you're coming from. But honestly, if she doesn't understand where you're coming from, then this is probably someone you didn't really want to date in the first place. So hopefully overall this all works out. My entitled wife stands me up at the altar for our wedding, abandoning me in front of all of our family and friends and humiliating me in the process, only to then later show up that night apologizing and saying that she still wants to try to get married. And I am so hurt and broken over this, I simply don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So my girlfriend and I had been dating since she was 19 years old and I was 21. We've been through everything together and basically have grown up together. I've always known that when she really gets panicky, she tends to run away from things. In fact, she used to randomly break up with me and try to run away when we were very young, but we talked it through and got better at it. And she hasn't done anything like that for years now. Anyways, I proposed a year ago and it was hardly a surprise. We had been discussing marriage for years. We both knew we were on board to do this, especially after she finished her master's degree and got a job in my city. I mean, everything was perfect. The past year has been very hectic in planning a wedding, since we're both from another country where grand weddings are the norm, and we had to fly people out and all this other logistics. About 2 to 3 months ago, the nerves really started to hit my girlfriend, and she tried to talk to me about it. I will acknowledge my faults here. She did try to bring it up to me that she was nervous, and the whole ordeal of a grand wedding was stressing her out. Ideally, she would have wanted a small destination wedding with a big party afterwards, but due to both of our families requesting a big wedding and inviting all their friends, we eventually just kind of gave in. She was also nervous about the commitment of marriage, as well as the finances and everything that comes along with it. All of this we had discussed before, but I guess she just needed some reassurance. However, in hindsight, I realize now that every time she brought it up to me before that she was anxious, I chalked it up to the normal cold feet people go through and would just be like, oh, it's gonna be fine, and I just kind of brushed it off. I was also stressed out with a lot of work to do before I could take my long leave, as well as planning and budgeting and all this other stuff. We both make very good money, but this wedding was going out of budget, and we didn't want to take any money from our parents. And honestly, all of it got pretty stressful for the both of us. She seemed a little jittery the night before as well, so I told her to just calm down and try to get some sleep. Mostly, I was just very excited to make her my wife, something I have been dreaming of since the day we started dating. She is the love of my life, and it was still hard to believe that she was choosing to marry me. I was the happiest man alive, but it all came crashing down as on the day of the wedding, she completely ghosted me and instead ran away from the wedding. And I was honestly blown away by what happened next. She left me a note apologizing and saying she couldn't do all this, and she just ran on the day of the wedding, mind you. I don't even know where she went. All of it unfolded so quickly, and it was almost like a movie. All our family members coming into my room while I was ready to walk out onto the altar, asking me where she is and all this other stuff. It was honestly pretty traumatic, and I ended up crying in front of all my family and friends. Our parents handled the guests, and all of it while I just went home heartbroken. And when I got there, she wasn't at home. I spent the entire day calling or texting her, and her phone was just switched off. She walked in at night at about 10 or 11 o'clock p.m. and just kept crying and apologizing. I told her to just go to sleep, and I need time to think about everything that happened. I am now at a point where I seriously don't know what to do anymore. She has apologized multiple times and wants me back, and says that she's even ready to do the whole grand wedding again, and she regrets having run away in a momentary lapse of judgment, as she puts it. She knows that she wants to be with me, but she just panicked and got cold feet. I can't imagine my life without her, but at the same time, my trust is completely broken. I don't understand why she couldn't just be more of an adult and tell me properly before the wedding, although she insists that she tried to. I feel completely disrespected and just heartbroken and completely humiliated that I had to go through all of that. I don't know if I should even forgive her. What if she just does this again and runs at some other important event like she did on the most important day of my life? What should I do? That is absolutely tragic, and it's absolute garbage. For context, this lady is 26 years old, and she waits until the morning of the wedding to dip and not show up in the first place. The fact fact that she tried to say, "Oh, I tried to talk to you about it," is an absolutely insane excuse in my opinion, and is not acceptable in the slightest. Her expressing her anxiety and saying, "Oh man, I'm nervous about this," is not in any way, shape, or form the same thing as her saying, "Oh my gosh, this is too much, I don't want to do this." That would be completely different. But her claiming, "Oh, I'm nervous and I'm a little panicky," without actually implicitly saying, "Hey, I don't want to get married right now," is completely disrespectful to you and the money that you put into this, as well as the fact that her family and your family all came together from different parts of the world just to try and come together for this wedding. She threw all of that out the window when she said, "Nope, I'm not going to show up for this." And then she has the audacity to show up later that night and just cry and apologize, as if that's going to make any of this better. So in my opinion, this is absolutely a deal breaker. And if I was in your shoes, I also would never feel like I could trust her again. I mean, what was she thinking? You wasted all of this money for nothing. She made a complete fool of you, and now she's like, "Okay, now I'm ready to get married." Like, are you kidding me right now? Overall, this is a crazy scenario to be stuck in, and I'm so sorry that you had to go through that. It also goes without saying that this is a massive red flag, and personally, I don't think I could marry someone who treated me like that on the most important day of my life. Like, that's unacceptable, and that really would be a deal breaker. So whatever you decide to do, hopefully it's for the best, and hopefully you think about yourself in this situation, because clearly she only thought about herself on the day of your wedding and decided to stand you up and humiliate you in front of everybody. And I think that really will be valuable in making your decision moving forward. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius? Check it out, link down below in the description. My partner of 5 years had an emotional affair with his ex, and after confronting him about that, I'm honestly not sure if our relationship is salvageable, and I don't know what to do. I want to start off by saying that I thought we were good. I honestly thought we were perfect. I saw a future with him. We always talked about building a life together. I just bought tickets and flights for our Valentine's Day trip, as well as for his birthday to go out of the country. Early on in our relationship, I had baggage and trauma from previous relationships, where past partners would talk to other women behind my back. In my other last relationship with another partner, I caught him writing letters to his ex. My last partner and I broke up, and a few months later, he got engaged to the ex that he was writing letters to. Now, my current partner knew all of this, and he was so kind and patient with me, helping me work through this early on in our relationship. Eventually, I trusted him. I really thought he was one of the good guys. He was my rock and my one and only. A few days ago, I had a mini stress breakdown because I found myself realizing I was doing a big amount of the chores and the errands around the house. I was upset at him about that. We talked about the chores and divvying up the mental load, but I also used this as an opportunity to let him know that I'd like more effort and support from him. I also noticed that he has been on his phone a lot more lately, and whenever I would come close to him, I noticed he would turn his phone over or quickly flip through his apps. I also remembered him smiling or laughing and just looking at his phone. I thought it was weird when he addressed all the other issues that I brought up, but not the phone one. I asked again, and he went back for a bit to think, then came over and said it was because he was doing a lot of journaling lately, and it would be embarrassing to show to anybody. And I asked him if he was including me in that statement. We left the argument after that. His family's holiday celebrations were today, and he wanted to go. I was still upset, and I said I wasn't going anymore, and he actually just left without me. Didn't even put up a fight like he usually does. He even left, came back because he forgot his camera, and then went back to it. I had a gut feeling, a very strong feeling inside me, which prompted me to log onto his computer and look through his messages. I was shaking from all the anticipation and the adrenaline, and that's when I saw it. I screamed. I broke down crying. He has been texting his ex, and it was 100% an emotional affair. He reached out at the end of November, and they were talking for about 2 to 3 weeks. At that point, my whole world turned around. He reached out first, and it was friendly at first. He just wanted to get closure. He said he missed the way they were able to talk and joke around. Friendly talk quickly turned into her getting all flustered from receiving messages, as well as wondering if they were secretly soulmates. He used to talk about me in the chat and how happy he was with me. She would then retort with a photo of her current partner. He later said, maybe we just don't talk about our partners for now. I'm not 100% comfortable if I'm being completely honest. And then all of the images and things he would send to me over text, he also sent to her. They were planning to meet up and talk at some point. They even acknowledged in the chat that this may be an emotional affair, and they even actively joked joked about it. Her current partner knew she was talking to mine, but I had no idea. Looking through the timestamps, the exact same time when I was upset, he messaged her, asking her if she had talked to me. She said no, and he said that we were having an argument and he was stressed. He was more worried about being caught than how I was feeling at the moment. He also told her about the argument, and it just feels weird and not right to joke about or complain about your partner to your ex. It feels very disrespectful. I mean, where was I throughout all this? I'm not proud of what I did, but after collecting all the proof, as well as a 23-minute long video of me scrolling through the messages, I rushed to pack a bag, and before leaving, I threw all his clothes on the ground, as well as his books on the ground and his luggage all over the place. I made sure not to do any permanent damage of any kind, but I wanted him to know. I was so close to blasting him all over social media with my proof, but I ended up not doing that. I wanted everyone to know so badly how horrible they've been and how much they've hurt me, but I didn't want to stoop to their level because I know I'm better than that, and I am much better than her. Their relationship had high highs and very low lows. It was incredibly toxic. They brought out the worst in each other, and she even would get physically aggressive with him. Why would he throw away all that we have for her? I'm so glad for my friends being there for me. I remember that night bawling to her, and one of the things I've said was, well, what if he's texting or calling her right now? What's stopping him from doing this guilt-free or meeting up with her earlier? He must be back home from the Christmas party, right? Why hasn't he called me or texted me to see if I'm okay? I felt like I had already lost to her. She finally won and has him around his fingertips. The next morning, he finally messaged me. He asked me to talk, and we did eventually do that. He showed up looking pretty bad with puffed up eyes from crying, and I was surprised that I wasn't teared up as well because I must have cried it all out prior. We talked for about 6 hours. Even though I was fiercely angry, I gave him the space and the opportunity to explain his side, and I just listened. It's the usual cheater speech. He has been feeling not confident lately, felt like something was missing in our relationship, felt like he never got the closure from the previous relationship, and thus reached out. Intentions were to get closure and figure out what was missing, and to use that to better our relationship. He continued to talk to her because he wanted to make sure before they met for closure, it was on friendly terms. He then missed talking to her. She kept flirting and talking about catching feelings, and he reciprocated. He tried to blame me and say the past year of our relationship hadn't been great, but I pushed back, and I said to him, then why not talk to me or make an effort to grow this relationship? Why look elsewhere? He then tried to flip this and say I made a massive violation of trust by snooping around, and I said, so what? Isn't this justified? Also, would I have ever even known about this friendship if I hadn't snooped around? He said he wanted me to hear it directly from him, which is just great, just so I can get a watered down version of what's really going on. I then asked for his phone, and the real kicker here is while I was in a hotel, bawling my eyes out, no text or phone call came inside of me. He was texting her about what had happened and was asking her for her advice. He tried to make it seem like a good thing by saying that she said he should talk to me tomorrow. And what, you weren't going to talk to me until she said you should? He said he was planning to anyways. So he's just trying to paint her in a better light and justify talking to her. His defense for talking to her was that he assumed that we were completely done as a couple. He reiterated that I'm perfect. He loves me and thinks about me all the time, and we had 90% good things going. And meanwhile, his ex only had 10% of good things. And he truly was just trying to figure out what that 10% was to try and better our relationship. He said he takes full accountability and made a giant mistake, and that he should have went to therapy instead. I told him to block her everywhere. I don't know if he was going to do it anyways, and maybe I didn't give him enough time to suggest it, but I can't believe I had to ask him to do it. So he did it everywhere, but then hesitated once he got to the messaging app. He had the audacity to ask if he could have one last phone call with her just to get closure, but I said no. He pushed back again, and I said you can only text her, or if you do call her, you need to do it right in front of me. He hesitated and waited. I stood up and said you either do that or you leave. I will not be second place to anybody. I deserve to be first. He then sent her a message and blocked her everywhere, but him talking talking to her after we had fought and seeing how hurt I was, and then asking if he could have one last phone call was extremely hurtful, in addition to the emotional cheating messages. I know I've got a lot going on. I have a wonderful support system, and if I may toot my own horn, I know I'm beautiful, smart, caring, funny, and driven, and I know I won't have any trouble finding someone out there who will see all this in me and not take it for granted. But 5 years, we had so many wonderful memories and adventures. Our lives were intertwined, our friend groups melded, and his family loves me to pieces. Why did he risk throwing this all away? What was he thinking, if at all? And even though I know I will be okay, and I'm not afraid of being alone or adjusting, I just don't know why I really want this to work after all he has done to me and continued to do to me. Do I believe him that he's sorry and he wants to work on our relationship? He looked remorseful and understood what he's done. He's already set up a meeting with a relationship counselor and is coming up with a plan on how to rebuild our relationship and my trust. I'm glad he is making steps to make this right and acknowledge his mistakes, and I want to see if this really will work. But I keep flip-flopping between if I'm being horribly naive and stupid, or maybe this will work and make us stronger than before. But I really do love him, and if with the right amount of time and effort, I know deep down I have the capacity to forgive him. I'm honestly lost. My emotions keep fluctuating between anger, hurt, mourning, and hopeful. What really sucks about this is whether I do leave or if I stay and we work on this, I'm going to be hurt either way. I know I did nothing wrong, and yet I still have to be hurt from all of this, and for a long time. You have a lot more grit than I would. If my partner had cheated on me, and yes, he absolutely cheated on you, I would probably kick them to the curb and say, you know what, I don't want you in my life. So you must really love him and be a stronger person than I would be, because I don't think I could possibly face my partner if they did something like this to me. I mean, he was so obsessed with talking to his ex-girlfriend once again, basically getting her permission and advice on how to run your relationship. And that's just so toxic. So hopefully this all works out for you, because the way he acted is unbelievably unfair, and you truly do deserve so much better. My female colleague is starting to act weird towards me after we've spent several years being really good friends at work, and at this point I really don't know what to do. So I sit in one office with a married colleague. We are both lawyers for one government department. We clicked instantly from the first moment and became really good work friends and colleagues. We have sat together for more than 3 years so far. We used to talk to each other for multiple hours per day. We went to lunch together, we helped each other work-wise, and we exchanged birthday and Christmas presents. But our friendship existed only at work, and we both were totally fine with that. But this year, everything changed. Our work department hired 2 new employees, 2 young women, and my colleagues started to spend more time with them, and I was totally fine with that. I even introduced her to one of the new girls, whom I have known from a different workplace, because I thought they might become good work friends. My colleague and these 2 other women started to hang out together during work in another office, and I started to notice my colleague also started to change her behavior towards me. After one stupid conflict during which we did not speak to one another for several days, I noticed that she started to look at me differently. She had a big smile whenever she came to work and entered our office. She started to tease me more often, and she would start talking to me about her kids without me asking. And at times, it seemed like she was really demanding my help and attention. She was asking me to come close and to look at stuff on her computer, and she would become irritated when I did not respond to her immediately, stuff like that. However, it was not annoying to me, and it did not affect my work. To be honest, I started to feel afraid that she might be developing feelings for me, but I would never start anything with someone who is in a committed relationship. A few weeks later, she started to become really on and off with me, meaning that she would be friendly on Monday, we would talk as friends again, and she would then be distant on other days, rather talking with the 2 women I mentioned. I thought to myself that she probably replaced me emotionally with the new girls, so the dynamic of our work friendship changed as a result. It started to look like as if she was trying to push me away emotionally, so I just started to mirror her. I stopped asking her personal questions, I started to go to lunch with other colleagues, and much more. One important thing is that recently, she completely stopped asking me personal and even work-oriented questions, and became very easily annoyed with me whenever I asked her why she is sometimes kind of rude and disrespectful towards me all of the sudden. But questions like this seem to only push her further away from me, so she is actively ignoring me as a result, even though she looks to be comfortable around me. She even said several months ago that she feels the safest with me. Last week, I asked her if she would prefer to sit with someone else instead, and she told me, "Do whatever you want, I don't care." And after that question, she did not speak to me for a few days. She would not even say hi or bye. Basically, she was giving me the silent treatment. Today, she started to talk with me again, but she is still very distant. My other colleague told me that she would prefer to continue sitting with me, but it's quite hard to be around a person who is treating me as if I don't matter to her anymore, even as a colleague or a person. Now I honestly don't know what to do at this point. She is treating me as if she was actively trying to ignore me or punish me for something that was not communicated. It's not affecting me work-wise, but on a personal level, it's pretty triggering because I liked and still do like her as a friend and a colleague, but she completely changed her attitude towards me. She acts normal around everyone else except for me. It's important to note that even I don't want to sit with someone else, but sometimes it's hard to accept that she simply does not want to discuss things with me in order to have some kind of repair on our work relationship. I'm just giving her space at the moment, and I'm focused on my work and other people there. But it still bothers me how weird things are between us, considering the fact that we share one office. Would there be any way to improve our work relationship? What would be the best thing to do in this situation? What should I do? This seems like one of those situations where you definitely should really just take the hint and move on and maybe find another place to sit at work, because this lady's being very off and on and most definitely was trying to flirt with you. And I bet you the fact that you didn't reciprocate is probably the reason she's upset. And you said it yourself, she's married, and I don't think you should waste your time with someone who's acting like this. And sure, I totally understand that you want to have friends at work, but you know what? You can find friends outside of work and just make that place the place you go to make money, and then you go home and do your own thing. Or if anything, find different people in the office to be friends with. It sounds like you've attempted to give her space, you've tried to check in and be kind to some degree, but she is the one that's pushing you away. And in my opinion, if someone shows you exactly who they are, you should believe them the first time around. So I think you should believe her when she's acting like she just doesn't care about you, because that probably is exactly how she feels. So hopefully you can find a new place to sit at work, and you can find other people to befriend at work. It's unfortunate, and it does happen, but I think you're better off finding another way to be happy at work than to try and rely on somebody who clearly does not care about you. My crazy entitled mother secretly records my therapy session and is now threatening to use it against me in the court of law, all because I said things about her in therapy that she did not like, and now I don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So my mother never told me that there was now a camera or an audio recording device in the living room. I tried to find it, but it's not visible from what I found. I also had a therapist as an adult, to where my therapy sessions were private and on the phone due to COVID lockdown at the time. This particular session, I was touching on the topic of the way my mother treats me and makes me feel. Without me knowing, as she was at work and I was alone with my kid at home, she recorded the entire session. And this was all without my consent. She came home and then threatened to press charges on me for slandering her name. I told her she had no right to record my private sessions. She then tried to blame me and said, "Maybe next time you won't do it in front of a camera." And I asked her, what camera is she talking about? And she didn't point to anything. She just said, "I put a new camera in the living room." I replied to her and said, "My therapy sessions are private, and if you take me to court for what I said, you wouldn't be favored, as you aren't supposed to record somebody and use their private therapy sessions against them. I have a right to my own thoughts and opinions. And if you knew anything about therapy or how I have it set up with my therapist, she wouldn't say anything to anyone unless it threatened mine or my daughter's well-being." She then goes off on this tangent, stating that she's never done anything wrong to me. And when she said that, I wanted to snap. I wanted to yell at her about the years of mental, emotional, and physical abuse, as well as the neglect I've endured because of her. I had to grow up at 5 to care for my little brother because she simply wouldn't do it. I'm not sure if I'm in the wrong, but my therapist says that what I feel is going on is how I see it, and it is valid. She should not have recorded my therapy session. It's illegal in the state of Texas to record a conversation that you are not involved in. And she basically broke a law and threatened to use what I said against me. I don't know if my reaction was right, but she refuses to delete the recordings to this day. I'm worried that she may try to take me to court, and while there was nothing incriminating, she says that she might be able to use it as a slander case against me, even though what I said is all 100% true. My therapist could even contest to it, as she has some recordings of what I deal with on a daily basis. Am I in the wrong for telling my therapist how my mother treats me? Because my mother even said, "You don't talk about me to anyone, not even your friends." She has even been witnessed on call actively treating me like garbage, and then blames me by saying, "You need to stop telling people I'm a bad person." And this is especially prevalent when other people witness it over call as it happens. This is all honestly so distressing, and I simply don't know what to do. The way your mom is acting is absolutely out of line. Therapy is supposed to be a private experience where you can be open and honest about your inner feelings. It's one of the few places where you can be completely honest and there really won't be any kind of judgment. Like, you really can just say whatever you want to say. So with that in mind, what you say in therapy, even when it's as brutally honest as possible, it absolutely needs to be confidential. Otherwise, situations like this could arise. It's honestly horrifying that your mom would seriously record your therapy session and then threaten to try and use it against you. I mean, what kind of psychopath seriously acts like that? And you said it best. Where you come from, it's illegal to privately record someone against their consent, especially when you are not involved in the conversation at hand. You're just some weird bystander trying to get the dirt on what your daughter's saying about you, and that's just crazy to me. So honestly, it might be time for you to lawyer up. I think talking to an attorney and discussing this with someone who knows the ins and outs of the law would really be your best bet. You can make assumptions of what you can and can't do, as well as every hypothetical that you could possibly think of. But at the end of the day, an actual lawyer probably would be your best bet. So hopefully all of this goes well, because I would be so traumatized if that happened to me. I can't imagine what it feels like to be discussing openly the things that your mother did, only for her to be like, "Oh yeah, I recorded everything you said and I'm gonna try and use it against you." I mean, if that's not proof that she's clearly guilty of all the things that you said, I don't know what else is. She very clearly wants to try and control the narrative, and just know, I really think that if she does try to go public with the things that you said, this will only make her look like a terrible mother and probably confirm everything you've ever said in your therapy session. Because this lady sounds like a nightmare, and you have a right to privacy to discuss these issues. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. My girlfriend has invited me out with her friends for New Year's Eve, but I really want to try and have something more private and intimate with my girlfriend, since this is going to be our first one together as a couple, and I honestly don't know what to do. So me and my girlfriend have been together for a year now. A few months ago, I mentioned that for New Year's Eve, we should do something together as it will be our first. This was a while back, so she may have forgotten, and it was in a passing conversation. Last month, while we were having a meal, she mentioned that her friend was planning a group New Year's Eve party and then going to an event, and that she's going and I should come along too. When she said this, I won't lie, I was taken aback. The way she said it made me feel like she's already decided, and I should just come along with her. I was expecting us to do something together, and I was a little surprised, to be honest. I think I said something like, "I'll see if I can go," and it was discussed no more. A few days ago, my girlfriend brought it up again in person for us to spend it with her friends, and I may have implied I was up for it. Some other things were going on at the time, so I didn't really give it much thought. She went out with the exact same group of friends on this day that I will be seeing on New Year's Eve. My girlfriend had messaged me saying that her friend had bought her a ticket and sent me the link to get one for myself. I'm not too sure that I'd fully enjoy the event, but it will be a brand new experience. This is because the event will be playing cultural music, and while I am from that culture too, I never listen to any of it, so I don't really know any of the words or the language or anything like that. All of her friends do know the words, and I'm worried I won't be able to fit in. In past relationships, I've always looked forward to being invited out by my partner to meet her friends. I am an easygoing person to get along with, and I really do enjoy it. However, I've never had a girlfriend who has acted this way before. It was enough of a deviation that I noticed it on the first instance that we've been in a group setting. My girlfriend has restrictive parents, so she is used to lying to go out or just to do anything. My girlfriend also becomes a different person when she's in a group setting with her friends. It's almost like she's putting on a performance. I'm a relatively confident person, but it's almost like she forgets I'm there in situations like these. I've noticed this on more than one occasion. It's important to mention that when she went out with this group of friends last week, I believe that she lied to me, as she was meant to be going out with girlfriends. She invited me out, but I said no because it seemed like a girls' night out. But she instead met up with some more friends, including some guys at a hotel room. She said they were walking to the bar and her friend needed to go to the bathroom, and they just by chance bumped into these friends, who she's very close with. My girlfriend just texted me that night that her friend needed to go to the bathroom at the hotel, and that's it. She omitted the part that they all went up to the room to pre-drink at the party. I don't believe her story of just simply bumping into them at all. all. I clarified her movements, and they just don't tally up with what she is saying. I honestly believe that they plan to meet up, and my girlfriend lied to my face about it. On the night, I had such a strong gut feeling that I was being lied to that I simply could not sleep. In the day after, she did tell me that she went to the hotel room by coincidence, but did not tell me on the night. She also followed the 4 guys there on Instagram, which is fine, but she didn't even mention it. My girlfriend had spoken about some of her friends throughout our relationship, and I've met them once or twice, most of them female, but I've not gone out of my way to follow them back. It's also important to mention that me and my girlfriend have never had a proper night out, as in staying out till like 2 in the morning, and that is since the year that we've been together. She's always had to be home by 11 o'clock at night due to having a curfew, and she drives instead of using an Uber. Our first 6 months together were bliss. I genuinely thought I met the woman of my dreams. I thought I'd found my teammate. However, in the last few months, my girlfriend's behavior has made me think differently altogether. My girlfriend is a self-proclaimed people pleaser, and at this point, I'd never met any of her friends, so I thought nothing of it, but after seeing her with friends, it makes sense. Since these last few months, I get the feeling that my girlfriend is not my teammate anymore, even though she tells me she loves me. Small things have happened where she's not followed through with her word. Sometimes I get the sense that my girlfriend has developed the attitude that she's going to do whatever she wants, and I simply have to deal with it. I used to trust this girl fully not too long ago. I used to fully believe in her as well, but now I do doubt what she's telling me. I haven't confronted her about the suspected lying about this hotel party yet, because I have some exams after the new year, and I can't afford to stress or have some kind of conflict about this. I plan to truly bring it up to her after that. Even though I've informally sort of agreed to go to this New Year's Eve party and join her friends, can I still tell my girlfriend that it would be nice to spend New Year's Eve together as a couple, and especially because it's our first? I'm worried if I text her this, I'll get a standoffish response, similar to her just saying, "Well, I already made plans, you do you," or that she's already bought a ticket, which is a relatively small sum of money and it's not really that much. I still haven't confronted her of the suspected lying, and I won't lie, it's honestly slowly eating me away. What should I do? I think the New Year's Eve party is probably going to happen whether you go or not. It seems like she's already got her heart set on that, so I really don't know if there's much you can do in that regard. And you're right, I think it really is unfortunate that she basically decided this all for you. I think if anything, maybe next time you want to have some kind of one-on-one time with her, make the plans ahead of time and say, "Hey, I've got these plans for us to spend New Year's Eve together as a couple at dinner or at a resort," or something like that. Leaving it up to chance will only open this up for something like this to happen in the future. When it comes to her possibly lying, you better make sure you have your ducks in a row when it comes to that, because accusing your girlfriend of lying is only going to end badly in my opinion, especially if you don't have some kind of evidence associated with it. And unfortunately, a gut feeling is not evidence. So maybe in the future when plans are being made, speak up sooner about what you want and maybe give some kind of counteroffer before it's too late, because I think in this situation, it most definitely is too late to have any kind of party or get together for just the two of you on New Year's Eve. My new partner is really boring to me, and I'm unsure if I really just don't like him or if this is some kind of problem with me overthinking. And at this point, I don't know what to do. So I've been dating this guy for about 3 months, and we met on a dating app. We started back and forth for the first month, and then we started meeting in person, as well as going on dates, and eventually starting to hook up exclusively. Sometimes it feels right, but most of the time these days, I just would rather avoid him, and I've even considered breaking things off altogether. My 3 main issues are that it feels like we have nothing to talk about. He's one of those people who calls all the time, but half the time, neither of us are saying anything, because the other half of it feels like banter about nonsensical things. It feels like his go-to jokes are super repetitive, and I find myself losing patience with it, as opposed to finding it funny like I did 6 weeks ago. Physically, I was initially attracted to him, but he just turns me off. It's partially what I feel like is a lack of effort on his part. I always make sure to look, smell, and feel wonderful, and he shows up in the same hoodie and jeans no matter what. He had the audacity to comment on what I was wearing once, like he ever switches it up ever. He usually comes over after work, so I tried to not hold that against him, but he also wants intimacy every time, so I honestly feel like effort wouldn't hurt in this situation. I also get generally grossed out when he burps or spits or farts, and it's killing the attraction for me. The last one is really minor, and it could just be him joking around, but he'll joke about how I'm digging into his wallet because I want to eat out every time he comes over. over and completely ignoring the fact that I pay for half of our dates and have taken us to more expensive places, so I have arguably spent more money, and he is already the one coming to my place, so I'm cleaning and getting ready at the same time. For some context, I can't go to his place because his mom isn't the nicest person apparently. Overall, it just feels like a lot of effort on my part, but he is a good person and we have fun when I'm not overthinking it. So it really begs the question, should I stay with him or am I just trying to avoid some kind of relationship and I'm really just trying to pick apart minor things that could easily be fixed? What should I do? I gotta say, reading that first half of it, I really would be under the assumption that you don't like this guy. Like you really dug into him really hard, basically saying that he doesn't try, that he's super repetitive, and you're just kind of losing attraction to him. But at the same time, you end this by saying that he's a good person and that you do have fun around him when you're not overthinking it. So maybe that's what's going on here. Maybe you're just overthinking the situation. And it sounds like you're not communicating with him at all. Like it sounds like you have all these issues that you really do have with the way he looks and the way he's acting overall, but you haven't laid out any kind of game plan with him for him to try and change or to at least see where you're coming from. Like you never know. If you said, hey, could you wear something different when you come by? He very easily could be like, okay, I'll wear something different and go along with it, no problem. Or even if you explain to him, hey, I don't like it when you obviously burp and fart like that. It's kind of unattractive and I don't like it. Or something like that along those lines to maybe communicate to him and share your needs and your expectations in this relationship. Like that really could go a long way because when it comes down to it and you're not overthinking things, you do have a good time. And that's something you can at least hold on to, especially when it's this early into a relationship. You are getting to know each other still. So if anything, I say keep giving it a try. See if these minor adjustments can be made. And who knows, this relationship could very well still work out. My entitled coworker is constantly harassing me at work, always trying to find ways to put me down and make me feel like an idiot. And I've honestly had enough and I don't know what to do. So to start off, I have some disabilities as the result of a car accident. Nothing you can really see except for a small scar on my face. And that's going to be very important for this story. So my front of house by the name of Ariel had personal issues going on and cussed me out over a misunderstanding. I had been there 5 days. I spoke with my friend and owner and he assured me that this would not happen again and she just had a really bad day. I said okay and I can understand that. I came back and every shift with her has been a literal nightmare. She has berated me non-stop on nearly every shift. Well, the straw that broke the camel's back is when I came in for a shift 1 hour after finding out that the man who raised me had passed away that morning. I came into work and let everyone know I wasn't at my best, but I would set it aside because I didn't want to call out, knowing they may not be able to find someone that quick to work a shift. From the moment I walked in, she treated me like the biggest piece of garbage. I mean, pure hatred is what I felt from her. I did everything from walk the wrong direction down the hall to being slow to her liking to asking her if I could help her, which honestly just made her crazy. I asked her at one point towards closing if there was anything I can do for her, and she literally looks at me dead in the eye, smiles, and explicitly says, "Don't you think you've been here long enough to know what you're doing? Read the list." And when she said that, I almost lost my mind right then and there. I wasn't asking what needed to be done for clothes. Everyone else helps each other out on shift, and everyone else, including her, also knows that I have dyslexic aphasia, and that if they just tell me, we can get things done faster. Never mind that I have no clue what she has or hasn't done in the back. Well, at one point, she decides I don't need the food on a plate for my order, that I'm trying to get off the pass, so she takes it and tells everyone she can just wait. She says it like I'm not standing inches away, waiting on her to move so I can get it. The looks that followed were priceless. I somehow keep it together. At another point, I walk out from the back and look around to see what needs to be done, and she says, "There's plenty to do around here. Don't just stand there." And I had just walked from the back. I finally speak to the owner again about this. I explain that I came in when I was grieving a devastating loss, and to be treated just like that was absolutely ridiculous. I didn't deserve it. And sure, I've messed things up since I've been there, even before having a lot on my mind. But this wasn't like that. And even if it was, I've been there a month. I'm not a career waitress yet. I just started. She blamed me for the kitchen losing my ticket and said I should have just known that. The people had been maybe waiting 15 minutes. It's a little long for what they ordered, but we were also slammed. I just can't with this psychotic woman. I've never seen anyone with so little empathy. I wasn't asking to have my hand held or anything anything like that, but she looked for things to go crazy about. I told them that, and I didn't get scheduled with her this week for the first time, and I honestly hope it keeps up. I love everyone else, and without the stress of her, I actually make less mistakes. I don't feel so on edge. It's been a great work week so far. I've heard her speak to one other person this way before, but the way she talked to me felt overly personal, and I honestly don't know what to do if I ever do get scheduled with her again. That's really a toxic work environment if there ever has been one. She's singling you out because she wants to bully you and put you down, and it's really important that the owner of the restaurant steps up and makes sure that either this lady does not have you on the same shift as her or lets her go in some way, because you can bet that toxic attitude is going to go from you onto another coworker, and it's just going to perpetuate and it's never going to stop. And that's literally unfair for you, and it's unfair for the rest of your coworkers who have to put up with this garbage every day. And I think you're right. You've only been there like a month. How can anyone possibly expect you to have it all together? This is your first waitress job and you've never done this before. So hopefully this works out, and I really hope you don't have to deal with that lady again, because the way she's treating you is completely unfair, and you definitely don't deserve to get treated like that. My girlfriend is a complete hypocrite, criticizing me about everything that I do and then turning around and doing it herself. And at this point, I really don't know what to do. So my girlfriend is amazing. Our chemistry is amazing. We want things to work out, but I feel like I'm going crazy. We've been dating for 10 months and spend every day together. She's brought it to my attention that my body language is awful. The things she tells me are kind of outrageous. If I shake my leg, she accuses me of having dirty thoughts. And if there is someone in the room or on the TV, she will come to the worst conclusion possible, if you know what I mean. If I run my hands through my hair, she accuses me of trying to spread my pheromones. If I lunge to grab something in the supermarket, I'm accused of showing off my butt to the people around me. Yet if I bring up that she does the same thing, if not much worse, she flies off like a loose cannon full of denial and accusations. Alas, I adjusted my body language to make her more comfortable, and she stays the same. She has accused me of watching girls dancing on TikTok, and I've proven her wrong with my watch history. I've had my feet held to the fire multiple times on this subject alone, so to help mitigate the problem, I just deleted the app. But then I found out months later that she has been watching dirty pictures online, if you know what I mean, which is really ironic considering all the accusations she made towards me. She has accused me of putting myself on display if I, quote, manspread even a little, yet she will wear the shortest dresses and her underwear is always showing when she sits down, but she'll say, I just want to look pretty, I can't control it. She has also accused me of being too close to people and flirting if I sit beside her friend at the dinner table without saying a word, yet she will be basically breathing down my best friend's neck and basically make it seem like she's coming on to them all throughout the conversation. I've terminated my bubbly personality and distanced myself from people all around me, but she claims that I'm still just being too friendly, while she just wants to get to know my friends. I'm really worried I'm doing these things just to give her control and help her hide from her insecurities, as opposed to me just having some kind of bad body language, whatever that means. I would never have a problem with the things she's doing if I hadn't built resentment from the fights and the changes I've made despite everything. Is it that this change is good and she should take her own advice, or is it that I'm snuffing out my personality to save her from herself? What should I do? Your girlfriend is a narcissist. She is absolutely being a manipulative lunatic. I mean, how on earth are you even still with her? Literally everything, and I'm not even kidding, everything she said is absolutely insane. No, you shaking your leg does not mean you have dirty thoughts, and I promise you, you're not spreading your pheromones to people around you anytime you put your hands through your hair, and nobody wants to look at your butt in the supermarket, I promise you that. Your girlfriend literally sounds crazy, and she's doing this just to control you, and if you continue to follow along with this, your personality will become non-existent. Any kind of outgoing nature or anything that you like about yourself will literally be stuffed in a box, because she's going to claim you're doing anything and everything all the time. And it's also quite telling that she's telling you not to do these things, and then in some kind of way, shape, or form, she turns around and does it herself. She's a complete hypocrite, and it blows my mind that you're putting up with that. And I think your worry is correct. By going along with this, you're giving her control, and you're helping hide her own insecurities. I'm sure your body language is just as neutral and normal as anybody else out in public. And based on the fact that this has been going on for 10 months, I really just don't see this ever getting any better. So if I was in your shoes, I would seriously be re-looking at this relationship, because I'm sorry, but she sounds absolutely crazy, and you do not need this kind of energy in your life. An entitled, spoiled spoiled, rotten child treats me like garbage at my work. But after this kid starts crying because I simply corrected him, this kid's entitled parents then demand that I apologize. But I simply refused to do so, and instead flipped the script and told them basically in a roundabout way that they are awful parents. Here's what happened. So this happened earlier this year when I used to work at a kids cafe. Think indoor playground with a coffee kiosk for rich people. Basically on weekdays, we would have hour-long programs. It would be 30 minutes of an activity, such as story time, crafting, board games, stuff like that, as well as 30 minutes of playtime in the playground. On the weekends, we would do a 2-hour-long themed camp program, where we would only do activities for the full 2 hours, no playing on the playground. At work, I would always look busy when parents come to drop off kids or pick up kids. We are supposed to cheerfully greet kids as they come in, then give parents feedback on how their kid did when they leave. But the thing about giving feedback, we have to lie. We are not allowed to say anything negative about the kid's behavior. So needless to say, I generally avoided speaking to the parents because I honestly don't care, and I think parents should know the truth. But I also wanted to keep my job and not get reprimanded for breaking a company rule. One Saturday, I was in charge of leading a camp. For camp, we had scripts that we should follow. It was the very end of the camp, and all the parents were waiting outside to pick up their kids. The cafe is located in a shopping mall, and our supposed walls were giant glass panels, so everyone could see into the cafe. We were doing the last activity, which was to, quote, save the cute forest animals from a fire. The kids would take turns being a firefighter and run up and choose one animal to save, then bring it back and put it in the basket. I was sitting holding the basket with one hand and the script in the other, and 2 kids were left. I told one kid who's 8 years old to run up and save one of the animals. He grabbed 2 animals, so I told him, no, only one animal please. He then rolled his eyes and tossed the other animal to the side. He finally came down and put his animal in the basket. He asked to go again, and I told him that he could not do that because we had one more person to go who hadn't had a chance to get the animal, and it was almost time to go home anyways. He pouted and smacked the script out of my hand. He then laughed incredibly loudly, and it was honestly very annoying. I grabbed his hand and I told him to pick up the script and give it to me nicely, which he did. And I proceeded to tell him that his behavior was not nice and that now I wanted him to go sit down. At that point, he started crying and he sat down. I continued with the activity while he kept crying. My coworkers tried to comfort him, but he would ignore them and throw the candy that they offered him. So my manager came to me and told me to apologize to him for making him cry. I told her I didn't do anything to make him cry. He is just spoiled. The manager walked away, so I started to clean up the activity area. The manager came back and told me that this kid's parents were upset that I made their kid cry, and they demanded that I apologize. I look over and I see the entitled parents comforting their stupid child. So I loudly asked if they witnessed this kid's behavior. My manager said yes, but I was at fault for not comforting this stupid kid after reprimanding him. I loudly, especially so the entitled parents could hear, told her that I did not reprimand this kid. I told him to give me the script, and I told him that what he did was not nice. The entitled parents called over my manager and told my manager they would not be coming back to a facility with cruel employees that would bully a kid like that. They threatened to leave a bad review. My manager apologized so many times. These entitled parents told her that they would only accept an apology from me to them, as well as to their stupid kid. And when they said that, I refused. And I told these entitled parents that maybe if their child had some manners, we wouldn't be where we are right now. The entitled mother was very upset by what I said, but the entitled dad didn't say much. They grabbed their things and they just left. My manager told me that I should know better and that I need to read up on the company's policies and rules about how to deal with parents. The very next weekend, that same stupid kid came back and talked to me like nothing ever happened. And you know what? So did I. I don't like holding grudges against kids, but the entitled parents, on the other hand, asked the manager to ask me if I have something against this kid. So again, I said loud enough for these stupid parents to hear, kids can't teach themselves manners or how to behave properly. The parents need to do that. So of course I don't have a problem with this kid. The entitled parents just looked at each other and left before my manager could approach them. I didn't have any problems with the kid that day, but I did hear from my coworkers that the 2 parents asked the manager what days I didn't work just so they could bring their stupid kid in while I was not there. This is such a hilarious story to me because you can tell tell the original poster literally does not care if they get fired. They are legitimately almost welcoming it at this point. Like they basically said, oh, you want to fire me? You want to say I'm not following company rules? Okay, let me talk a little bit louder. And you know what? The fact that these parents are not jumping in and being like, no, my kid's an angel. They would never do that. For me is probably proof that they know exactly what this person's talking about. And they know for a fact that their spoiled, rotten child has absolutely no manners. And they did nothing to have any kind of positive patterns in this kid's life. And what kind of company would encourage your employees to lie to the parents? Like if I was a parent and my kid was acting up, I would absolutely want to know if my kid went goblin mode and did something absolutely heinous. Like my kid's gonna be punished if they acted up like that. There's no excuse. So good for the original poster for putting their foot down. Clearly, I think the manager knows that they're in the right, and hopefully some policy changes can come around that will fix this weird rule that you've got to lie to parents about their stupid kid, especially if that kid was acting up and being completely obnoxious. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. This next one came from the Am I the Jerk podcast subreddit. Check the links in the description if you'd like to submit your own story. Am I the jerk for ghosting a former coworker of mine who was looking for a positive reference, but definitely did not leave his previous job in a good way? Here's what happened. So I work at a major university in the United States. I run a maintenance crew at night, and there's another shop who also works at night. We are in the same building, but focus on different kinds of work. Our shops get along great, and we usually help each other out on a regular basis. About 5 years ago, the other shop had an employee by the name of Bob. Bob was a really nice guy, but he was a physical manifestation of Pigpen from Peanuts. He was always dirty, he had torn clothing, he smelled terrible, and I won't even go into his dental hygiene. It was bad enough that his supervisor had to have a very uncomfortable discussion with him about using soap while washing and using deodorant. He made me uncomfortable more than a few times by alluding to his personal life with his wife, if you know what I mean. He wasn't explicit, but just thinking about how dirty he was made the mental image absolutely nauseating. Yuck. Well, he worked for this other shop for a few years when his marriage started having problems. As he put it, his wife was cheating on him with some previous boyfriends. Apparently, this wasn't the first time it happened, but he didn't want to divorce her since they had young kids, and he loved her so much. Well, he decided to deal with this situation in a way that basically got him fired. He had already been having some performance issues, and his supervisor really wanted to get rid of him. Unfortunately, at our university, getting fired is pretty hard to do. You have to get a warning, both informal and formal, multiple times, and then they can eventually let you go. It's a long, drawn-out process that frankly a lot of supervisors don't care to do. Therefore, there are lots of toxic employees that get away with terrible things. Anywhere else, they'd be gone in no time, but here, they have a lot of protection. There are ways to skip the line though. Obviously, bad things like violence or other harassment or even stealing can either get you fired right away or go straight to a final warning. If you screw up again after a final warning, you're done. Bob found himself in a very unique situation where he was able to skip the line. One day, his supervisor checked his work phone. As a fun fact, he is not entitled to privacy when he's using university phones or their computers. And the supervisor very quickly found some disturbing information. He called HR and they put together a fact-finding. This is a small group of people who investigate complaints or claims of bad behavior to figure out what happened. A lot of the times, it boils down to a he said, she said situation, and things are hard to prove. However, Bob provided all the proof they would ever need. Bob's supervisor discovered he downloaded some scandalous photos on his company phone with links to dating sites and history to Craigslist personal ads. They also found that he had linked his personal email to his phone and found emails of him setting up his rendezvous. He was doing all of this at work and even had his rendezvous at work, if you know what I mean, often in a company vehicle. The most surprising part was that he was meeting up with people while he was married to his wife. Eventually, when confronted about these facts, Bob confessed everything during the fact-finding. I wasn't even there, but the other supervisor confided in me afterwards. He said it was the most uncomfortable conversation he's ever had. Apparently, once Bob started talking, he just didn't stop. He willingly divulged all these details about him meeting up with people and basically cheating on his wife. After the meeting, HR needed some time to process everything, but the general consensus was that he would be fired. He was pulled aside by one of his coworkers, and they advised him to quit before he was fired. He did, did and was gone a few days later. I felt really sorry for him about his situation. I told him that if he needed a reference, that I would be happy to provide one, since obviously his supervisor couldn't honestly give him a good one. He thanked me and was gone shortly after that. A few weeks later, I started seeing emails for references for him come in. I didn't give him glowing references, but I gave him positive ones, based on the work I saw him do. Since I technically wasn't supposed to know about the circumstances of his departure, I left that part out of my reference. I was trying to help him out, and that was a mistake. I'm not sure if it was his hygiene or what, but this guy either couldn't get a job or kept getting let go because I got a reference check after reference check. In total, I probably did 30 over 3 years. At first, it was him applying for other government agencies. Our university is technically a state agency. And then it focused on custodial jobs at churches and offices. Then he finally settled on what he wanted to do, working in the public school environment. But this is where I started to get uncomfortable, because based on his history of having rendezvous at his previous job, I thought him working at a public school really would be a bad idea. He started applying in areas where he lived, but started reaching further and further out in desperation for a job. I gave him references, but they were very neutral at best. Eventually, he got to my kid's school district. Bear in mind, he lives about 100 miles away from my school district, so he really was reaching. In almost 3 years of searching, no one was hiring him, so he eventually just got all the way up to me, and something in me just snapped. I gave him the single most negative reference I have ever given anyone, and I told them flatly not to hire him. I didn't go into specifics, but it was strong enough that there would be no way they would hire him. After that, I decided to ghost any of his reference requests. After about 6 or 7 ghostings, he finally stopped using me. Now, you might be wondering, why didn't you just talk to Bob and say that you don't think it would be a good idea for him to work at a school? But honestly, that is a conversation that I really didn't want to have. There is no way that I could have had that conversation without letting him know that I knew about the circumstances of his departure and basically accusing him of being a nefarious individual, if you know what I mean. There was no chance of that going well. It still shocks me that anyone could actively search for a job, any job, and could strike out for 3 years straight. I mean, if anything, just go to McDonald's or Costco. Become a sanitation worker so you don't have to worry about smelling at work. But overall, this begs the question, was I the jerk for giving up on him and ghosting his reference checks, considering all the information that I knew? I don't think you're the jerk at all in this situation. This guy clearly did not have it all together in his life, and honestly, all the problems he has legitimately is his own fault. So I would not feel guilty at all for ghosting his reference checks and for deciding, you know what, I just don't want to be a part of this. Because I know if I was in your shoes, I probably would have done the same thing. Today, I messed up by taking a shower at work. So to start things out, this actually happened this morning. After a 20-minute bicycle ride through the freezing Scandinavian winter, I arrived at work and figured it would be a good idea to take a warm and refreshing shower. Luckily, my workplace has some nice big bathrooms with shower facilities. I immediately head into the bathroom, drop my clothes on the floor, and step into the shower and relax for a good 10 to 15 minutes. After finally snapping out of my catatonic shower state, I draw back the curtains and I step out onto the overflowing bathroom floor. And by flooded, I mean that we probably had a good half-inch of water covering the entirety of the bathroom floor. I look over to the corner where my pile of clothes are simulating a cotton island, and they are completely saturated by water. So here I am, butt naked in the bathroom at my work with no dry clothes. My first thought was just to put it back on and hurry back home to change. But being soaking wet in sub-zero temperature could lead to severe pneumonia under the best conditions. The second option was to make a complete power move and walk out just wearing a towel and hope I could do a series of speech 100 skill checks to gaslight everyone else into thinking they were the weird ones and for them to hand over some clothes to me. Luckily, I had a third option. By a stroke of pure luck, I had placed my towel and my private cell phone on the sink, thus unscathed by the water. I frantically Googled my work to see if I could find the number of my boss, and thankfully, I was successful. Now, I just had to muster up the courage to call her and explain the situation and see if she could save me. It is also worth noting here that my boss is a lady in her early 30s, so it was of some importance to me that this would not come off as a ploy for some nefarious activity, if you know what I mean. Luckily, she had a good laugh about it, said I was a complete idiot, and found an old soccer shirt in the break room and dropped dropped it in front of the bathroom. That solved some of my problem, but left me with the bottom half unaccounted for. At this point, however, I had spent the last 10 to 15 minutes twisting my jeans and running them under the hand dryer, so they had reached a state of acceptable humidity under the circumstances. At this point, it was about as good as it was going to get, so I went commando into the jeans and put on the soccer shirt and brought the rest of my clothes to a drying cabinet. At this point, I had no option but to get back to work while waiting for my blue-collar suit to dry up and just embrace the humiliation and the questions from my colleagues about why I was dressed like I was going to a festival. Knowing there was no way to stop the rumors from spreading, I figured I just might as well embrace the situation and get a good laugh with everyone else. This is honestly hilarious. You go to work just to try and get a shower to try and get some kind of warmth on your body, and then you find out you basically flooded the bathroom. Also, as a side note, I'm incredibly jealous that the original poster's work had a shower that worked. When I lived in colder climates, it would have been nice to take a quick shower and then get to work. But overall, this is just a really funny story. And hopefully, the next time you decide to take a shower at work, you put your clothes on the countertop instead of the floor. My father framed me for years for his cheating, and I'm only just finding out the details now, and I'm honestly disgusted. So I'm moving out right now. I'm going to live with a friend of mine and hopefully never see my family ever again. For years, I've lived in an abusive environment without ever talking about this, not even to my biological mother. She was the only person I could reach out to, but lives far away and is happy. So I didn't want to burst into her life again after what my father did to her. I have been living with the burden of being a disgusting human being and deserving all that happened to me, that I didn't even consider it as abuse, but more like a well-deserved punishment. Only recently did I open up about a small issue anonymously online, and I think I'm addicted to it. I want to share more and more. No one will know it's me, so I spill all the tea without worry. To get to the point, I was accused of helping my father hide the fact that he was cheating on his new wife. It is quite comedic, but it's also so hard to prove that it wasn't like that at all. How can I prove this when his wife was participating in framing me? All that to seem like a good, respectable woman to her family, and not to admit that they were in an open relationship. I can't believe how stupid I've been for years now, blaming myself for what happened. Looking back now, I think I'll never recover from what happened, but I didn't even realize it was happening. My father used me like a scapegoat. No, even better. He used me as a punching bag, and it was all planned. My stepmother pretended to be my victim, and my stepbrother was her willing accomplice. Honestly, they could have all taken me out in my sleep, and it would have been a lot more merciful than what I went through. For years, I thought I had betrayed them and hurt them, but I was just their toy. I can't explain the level of acting they displayed. I don't think anyone would ever believe me either. Maybe I'm just insane. Honestly, I don't even know, because they guilt-tripped me into never seeking therapy and mental help. I regret not clinging to my mother and begging her to take me away from there when I was just a kid. I regret every single day I lived in their house. I think I need to explain it better. I don't think anyone will understand anything from the rant I've been on, but basically, my mother and father were married when he told me, a 9-year-old boy, that I had a brother and asked me to keep it a secret. He took me to my stepmother's house to meet him and build a relationship with them. I went home, I told my mother, because I didn't feel like hiding anything from her. My mother then confronted him, and when she found out, she was devastated. So she left him and never let him contact her again. My father literally blamed me and said that I broke our family. He kept doing it, pushing me or hitting me and giving me glares until my stepmother moved in with my stepbrother. I was a kid back then and never told anyone what happened, so I have no proof, but I remember, and I swear I remember all that. Honestly, I wish I was left with a scar or something, but no, I have nothing to prove anything I say. Nothing, no evidence, nothing I wish I could have shared with the world. When I was a teenager, around 15 years old, he took me out for some father-son time and separately took my stepbrother out too. When he was with me, he took me to see a lady of the night, and he had some fun, if you know what I mean, in the other room, while I was in the other room, trying to ignore everything. He took my stepbrother to movies and to the park while I was there, having my sanity stolen from me. He told me not to say anything to my stepmother, and I know how pathetic it sounds, but I was scared of him. Just a glance and I was like an obedient dog. He said that if I didn't want to destroy this family too, then I better keep my mouth shut. And for a long time, I tried tried to force myself to tell my stepmother. I was waiting for him not to be home and to just tell her, but I was a coward, and I didn't say anything because I was scared of what would happen if this woman left him too. She soon found out when I was 15 or 16 years old, and that's when she started treating me terribly as well. She would do things constantly to basically make it feel like I was unwelcome in that home. She made my stepbrother hate me when I really loved him more than anyone. I really was close to him, and he was my only happiness, and he also became my abuser. Even my grandparents never bought any gifts for me. They would just glare at me as well, and they never spoke to me normally ever. But the reality of the situation was that her sister somehow found out that he was seeing other women and told their parents. Not to look bad in front of a traditional family, they made up the excuse that it happened only a few times and tried to wrap me up in this as an excuse, stating that I helped my father cover up the whole thing. And it's honestly all so disturbing. I only realize now, after all the mess and the self-blame that they never argued about, their relationship was affected, and until this day, they preserve that innocent facade in front of everybody, while I live surrounded by people who hate me. I always thought it was unfair for my father to be so easily forgiven, while I was still preserved, and it only clicked now, when I realized they were both in an open relationship, and pretty much everybody knew it. My father never protected me, and he honestly never cared. And hopefully, I never see these people ever again. Your family sounds awful, but I really want you to know that it's never too late to go into therapy. And based on what you're talking about, I think that really could do a lot for you. You've been through a lot, your family has been awful to you, but you can't start anew. So hopefully moving out to be with your friends will hopefully be a good change in your life. An entitled Karen gets up in my face and screams at me to sit down at a concert, but I simply wasn't going to take it, so I snapped back at her just as hard and told her to shut up and mind her own business. And I've never been more nervous in my life. Here's what happened. So earlier this month, a friend who I will call Danger, that's obviously not their real name, texted me last minute saying he had 2 extra tickets for a Rick Springfield concert that night. When I say last minute, I mean he texted me at 6:45 and the show started at 8 o'clock. And I live a little under an hour away from the venue, but I had nothing to do, so off my mom and I went. Skip forward to the show itself. I'm vibing, having a good time, just enjoying some live music on a night I didn't expect to. But in between songs, this couple behind me is constantly yelling, and not the kind of yelling you expect at a concert, saying stuff like, "Sit down in front," stuff along those lines. Most of the yelling came from our main antagonist, the entitled Karen of this story. Both of these two were sitting down, which I get it. You're at a show where you have seats, so you are obviously taking advantage of that. But yelling at others to sit down because you can't see, whatever, I'm just gonna enjoy the music. Then it actually happened. This entitled Karen actually poked me. I assumed that one of the people behind me just bumped into me, so at first I just ignored it. But then I felt another poke, and that one was harder and obviously intentional. Seeing as it was right in the middle of my back, I turn and I'm face to face with this entitled Karen. "Could you sit down?" she demands as she points at my chair. Now, me being the nice person that I try to be, I happily oblige. I know what it's like not being able to see at shows. I mean, I could barely see Springfield on stage at the moment too. Plus, there were 2 giant screens projecting the show for people to see, so I could just watch those. Well, this wasn't good enough. This entitled Karen then screams, "Sit down." This went on during the breaks between 4 more songs. My mom kept noticing my building frustration and tried to calm me down. I texted Danger about this to relieve some stress and see what he would say. He was in a different section than me because he was planning to get a meet and greet. But I honestly couldn't take it. I just wanted to have a good time, and it was being ruined by this entitled Karen. This entitled Karen then shouted one more time, "You need to sit down." And at that point, I was tired of being talked to like this, and I snapped at this lady in a way that I honestly never expected. I whipped my head around and I said, "Oh my God, will you shut up? We're trying to listen to the music." She screamed back at me by saying, "Well, I can't see." But I said, "Neither can I, lady. I can't see when I'm standing or sitting. There's a screen there and there. You can watch those. You can stand up or you can sit down and just enjoy it. We are here to listen to music and have a good time. Stop complaining and just relax, you Karen." This entitled Karen then just grumbled and said, "Whatever, and my name's not Karen." I eventually stood right back up and went back to having a good time, and there was no more yelling from behind. My heart was racing for a while after that. The thing you gotta know about me is I have really bad anxiety, so bad that my clinical diagnosis is agoraphobia. I have gotten a lot better, and music is something that has helped me with that, but never in my wildest dreams would I think I would snap at a Karen like this, especially without at least a shot of alcohol in my system. But I was sober, so that was intense for me. But here is where things get really interesting. A few songs later, I feel a gentle squeeze on my shoulder. Internally, I'm thinking, oh boy, here we go again. And I turn around to see this entitled Karen. She looks at me and says, "I love the way you move." She's giggling at this point, referring to me bouncing to the music. I look at her and I say, "Thank you?" replying obviously very confused. "Sorry about before. It's just so hard to see. Like that guy up there is like 7 feet tall." She said that referring to a man built like a tree a few rows up. I look at her and I say, "Oh, it's okay, I get it. I'm only 5 foot, so I can never see as well. We're just here to vibe and have fun." She then asks me and says, "What the heck is a Karen anyways?" Her question made me giggle nervously, prompting her to comment, "Oh, I love your giggle. That's so adorable." For the rest of the night, all was well. I had a blast. The Karen wasn't a Karen anymore. She would keep making little comments and apologizing as time went on. When Rick Springfield came into the crowd for one song, she kept nudging me and exclaiming, "Go up there." When it came time for the song Jesse's Girl at the end, she gave me a pat on the shoulder and said, "I'm gonna go up front." And I didn't see her again. Overall, it was a very interesting experience, but dear God, I don't ever want to have that experience of snapping at a Karen again. My stress levels were through the roof for days. As a side note, at the end of the night, Danger finally responded to my text message about the entitled Karen poking me in the back. His response, "Dude, absolutely destroy her." He has gotten very protective of me since he started calling me his little sister. So while I find that funny, I'm not at all surprised that's how he responded. What a weird situation. It's pretty obvious to me that she clearly had one too many drinks, and suddenly she became super giggly all of a sudden, complimenting the person that was very clearly blocking their view. Overall, I think it kind of worked out in the end, and I'm right there with the original poster. I definitely don't like conflict in this way, but sometimes people push it way too far, and this entitled Karen definitely did just that. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. My horrible cousin, who has been abusive towards me for several years, asked me out of nowhere in front of the entire family if I would be her maid of honor. But after all that I've endured for almost a decade of dealing with her, I turned this moment against her and I turned her down by saying no, saying that I would rather be just about anywhere than watching two clowns get married. And as a result, she's never gonna talk to me again, and I couldn't be happier. Here's what happened. So I have a cousin with whom I had a remarkably close relationship to the point that we were like sisters. That all changed when she was responsible for incidents that to this day made me reconsider our cousin-sister relationship. In 2012, when I was 16 years old, she gave me a strong relaxer that caused me to cut off 14 inches of my hair. For context, I used to relax my hair, and it was always soft or regular since I have fine hair. Her reasons? Because she started dating my ex, and he would not stop talking about my hair or my natural beauty. She stole friends from me and possible boyfriends from me. She turned family members against me, would rub in my face that she was my grandmother's favorite, and made fun of me for going back to my curly hair, all while mocking me for losing my older brother and sleep with my ex while on the process of moving together. She even made a post on Facebook mocking me for giving birth to my now passed away baby while 7 months pregnant. She also left threatening notes and a voodoo doll on my car. If you haven't caught on, she's not a very good person. I can keep going, but I don't want to make this any longer by explaining how messed up she is. At one point, I tried to get a restraining order on her, but the police thought I did not have enough evidence. I had texts of her admitting to doing it, but it was not enough. Or as one police officer officer told me it could be faked. So I blocked her from all my social media and blocked her number, and the only times I would only see her were at family gatherings. But I would avoid her since I did not want her situation in my life, or I would avoid her to not have my mental health triggered by her. So in June, she got engaged to my ex, and I found out from my family members. For context, I found them together, and instead of screaming and crying, I laughed and told them to enjoy my sloppy seconds. So my aunt was celebrating her anniversary with a barbecue, meaning I would see her. I went and I was having an enjoyable time, but when at the table, one of my aunts asked her how the wedding planning was going, and she could not help but brag that it was good. And now she had an announcement, and she looked at me with a devilish smile. She asked me in front of everyone if I wanted to be her maid of honor, since thanks to me, they both met up. I was cold, and I told her no. And when I said that, she whined about it and said, "Why not?" And all I gave her was a look, and she actually said that it's time for me to put effort into fixing our sister-cousin relationship. I just laughed when she said that and told her that by the time she is having her wedding, I would be in college finals, and after that, a month-long trip for my anniversary, and that would be better than seeing two clowns getting married. Plus, I told her the reasons I said no. She then started crying and yelled that if I do not do this, that I'm not invited to the wedding. But I just looked at her and I coldly said, "Fine by me," and I walked away, leaving her with a surprised Pikachu face. I have not spoken to her since that day, but all my family members support me, since they all saw how much of a horrible person she has been over the years. Good for the original poster for sticking up for themselves. There's nothing worse than having a family member who not only took advantage of you multiple times, but also mocked, ridiculed, and humiliated you multiple times, getting exactly what they deserve. And this lady definitely fits the bill. She is toxic, she was abusive towards you when you were teenagers, and she's clearly trying to manipulate you just as one last rub of salt in the wound that yes, she's getting with your ex-boyfriend and they're getting married. I mean, you would have been nuts to say yes to being her maid of honor. And let's talk about that cousin-sister relationship real quick. I think it's comical how she's leaving it on the original poster to try and fix that situation, when in reality, she's the one that did this to this relationship in the first place. It's honestly so toxic, and I really would not be surprised if this cousin is actually some kind of narcissist, because all the things that's being described definitely points to that being it. So hopefully the original poster is doing good with this decision, and they know that they made the right decision, because their cousin is crazy, and if I was in their shoes, I absolutely would have done the exact same thing. My job is super toxic, and it has managers who don't help out around the restaurant, and they all basically just bark orders and sit on their butts and do nothing all day. And things are not getting better, and I don't know whether I should quit or not, or if I should just get into something else. And I don't know what to do. Okay, so I've been serving for a while. I took a break for a couple of years, and now I'm back to it. I've been doing okay making great money, and had tons of tables compliment me. Had one find my manager and let her know I provided the best service that they've received in years. So like, yeah, I must be doing pretty good, right? My issue lies with management, mostly the shift leads. They're incredibly gossipy and very rude. I don't particularly care about the gossip, and I let them do whatever they want. Management doesn't do a lot at our restaurant. They don't run food unless there's some kind of allergy stipulation, and if asked to do something to help, they often roll their eyes, so I just avoid asking them unless absolutely necessary. One night, the bar was behind, and my appetizer came out before my drink. I asked the shift lead near the bar if there was anything that could be done about this, as we normally comp drinks or apps if this happens. She told me that the bar's behind and to just deal with it, essentially telling me to go pound some sand. Later, when I got a second, as the entire night was nuts, I asked the manager if there was anything we could do before their bill came. She said unfortunately no, because it had been too long, so she couldn't look up the drink times. She then asked me why I never asked them sooner, and I said actually I did, but was told that the bar was behind and to just deal with it. She asked who told me this, and I reluctantly told her the name of the shift lead. I overheard from others later that she was mad because I almost got her in trouble. The next day, I was unpacking all new shipments, as I was opening on a day we receive orders. Then I had to reset the entire dining side of the restaurant in 15 minutes after the fact. I was taking a longer while than expected, and so a different shift lead who was on her last laptop all morning, came next to me, started clapping, and started saying,
"Chop, chop, hurry up."
I'm not sure if I took it personally, but I find it incredibly rude considering she was just sitting in the booth while I was struggling. And maybe this is just the culture of management to not really do much of anything. After this, my shifts were cut, and it's really hard not to take this personally. We've received poor reviews on Google for individuals sitting close to the kitchen, stating that they are hearing people say, "That's not my job," especially from managers when they are asked to run the food. So the customers definitely are in the know and they hear what's going on. So I'm at a point where I'm wondering, do I leave and go elsewhere, or do I tough it out and hope that it gets better? Because right now, I honestly don't know what to do. What a terrible work environment. You have management basically barking orders at you and clapping their hands telling you to chop chop hurry up, but they're the last people involved when it comes to rolling up their sleeves and getting the job done. And that to me is incredibly inappropriate, and it's not fair. I'm also really hesitant to say that this will ever get any better. If I was in your shoes, leaving this job and looking for something else, most definitely would probably be something I would consider, because these people are just super toxic. Like, that lady literally watched you as you're trying to set the restaurant up, and instead of helping, she just rolled her eyes and acted like a lazy bum. And what's worse, the restaurant gossip and pettiness is just gonna get worse and worse over time. Management clearly isn't facing any repercussions, and it doesn't seem like they're gonna receive any kind of reprimand anytime soon. So looking for something else probably wouldn't be a bad idea. Otherwise, you're still gonna get treated like garbage by people who clearly undervalue your time and effort to try and make this restaurant run in an orderly manner. Today, I messed up by dressing casually for work, only for one of my colleagues to mistake me as one of my clients, causing her to treat me terribly and tell me to get out of the back office that I was trying to go into just to do my job. And it was honestly incredibly humiliating. Here's what happened. So I work with marginalized people with complex needs, and my specific role relates to having lived experience of homelessness, addiction, and complex trauma. There are a lot of different elements to it that I won't get into because they aren't relevant, but I do some work at a service for rough sleepers, which is where I was today. Most of my colleagues dress very casually for work. I try quite hard to be presentable because I guess I'm a bit worried about being judged for my background, even though that's literally why they employed me. It's also my first time in this type of job. However, right now in England, it is absolutely freezing, and I had to layer up, which meant I wasn't looking very officey, if you will. I was still clean, and I don't think I was that scruffy or anything like that. My clothes were just a bit mismatched and too big for me. At the place I was working, there's a drop-in area for the clients and an office area, which is staff only. I mainly chill in the client area since they're the people I'm there to work with, and only really go in the office area when I need to talk to a colleague or need to sit at a computer or something like that. This week, a member of staff I hadn't met before had come back from maternity leave and was in the office. I went to the office to introduce myself. I opened the door and popped my head around. Without even looking up, she just went, "No." And I was like, "Okay?" And I just backed up. I figured she was on a sensitive phone call or something like that. It was still rude, but you know, whatever. As a side note, her tone of voice really vividly reminded me of how people sometimes talk to me when I was homeless. I remember once trying to get a woman's attention as she was walking past me, and she had just that type of voice. She would rudely say no and would just keep walking, because I guess she thought I was begging. I was actually trying to tell her that her dress was tucked into her tights. Anyways, I just got on with things for a bit until I actually had to go into the office. I started walking in, and she jumped out of her chair and was like, "No, you cannot come in here," and literally started shooing me out the door with her hands. I kind of just allowed myself to be shooed, which probably speaks volume about my self-esteem, but the service manager, who I know pretty well, had arrived in the meantime and was also in the office. She looked at me like, "What on earth are you doing shooing this guy away? He works here." At this point, the rude colleague obviously backs down, but explains that because of my presentation and manner, she assumed I was a client. And when she said that, I was like, "Oh, okay. So you're cool with shooing away clients. Fantastic. Why do you work here again?" She then barely apologized to me, and I just said, "Okay," and told the service manager I was going to finish up my paperwork from home. I went home and I honestly had a little cry, since apparently the only thing separating me, the professional, from me as a homeless junkie once upon a time is a poorly fitting hoodie and a dorky hat. Not a good day for my self-esteem overall, to be completely honest. Now, I've dealt with this self-pity self-pity aspect, and I'm mainly just upset that this is how she thinks she should treat her clients. The service manager has emailed me about making a complaint, which to be honest, I probably will, even though it's the last thing I want to deal with. That is honestly disgusting. The fact that that lady works there and would possibly treat a client like that just to shoo them out the door and treat them like some kind of burden is enough evidence to prove that she really should not work there. Like, she is definitely there for the wrong reasons and needs to find a better line of work. This is up there with like a teacher who absolutely hates kids but decided, you know what, I'm gonna be a teacher and teach in public schools. Like, no, you treat people terribly and you shouldn't be there. So if I was in your shoes and I had the chance to file a complaint, you better believe I'm gonna file that complaint. This lady needs to learn her lesson and change her tone of voice as well as her attitude towards possible clients coming in and out of their facility. They need care, they need love, they need understanding, and more importantly, they need at least somebody on their team. And if this is seriously how she would treat their potential clients, then in my opinion, she definitely needs to work somewhere else. I may be falling for a friend of mine that I have known for years and truly consider one of my best friends, and I honestly don't know what to do. I'm a 27-year-old female, and I have a close bud who's also 27 years old, who lives out of state. We've been friends for years through a group and a mutual hobby, but we have never had anything flirty between us. Life changes, we changed, and we're now more compatible. We had a friend trip recently, and he flirted with me, but since it was out of nowhere, and we were both kind of under the influence, I gently shut it down. He made it crystal clear that he thinks I'm hot and have a great personality, and that I would be a top contender for the hypothetical situation of if we're both single down the line, we should just get married. Since that trip, I have not been able to stop thinking about him and that night. Maybe it's a bit too much info to share, but desire has been off the charts, and I feel like I missed an opportunity that I would have enjoyed. Still, we are dear friends, and I want to tread lightly. I don't know where he is at, or if alcohol was a factor in his behavior, or anything like that. Feelings are also tied up in this, and although I know I would like to spend some quality time with him, if you know what I mean, I don't know what I would want moving forward. We live far apart with no easy way to change that in the next few years. I also love this man, and I do not want to lose his friendship. There is a high chance that if we spend some quality time together, I will catch feelings. I don't know how he feels. I just know that he loves me as a friend, but we are also very different people emotionally. I also don't know that he is as concerned with the longevity of our relationship versus having immediate satisfaction. I'm having trouble with the wisest course of action. Our hobbies include overnights and shared sleeping accommodations, and I'm not going to avoid those. And as close as we are, and as much as I trust this guy, he's also a flirt, and he will approach women at bars. And I'm much more shy, to be honest. I don't want to toss our friendship over a night of quality time. This night also included vulnerability, a few tears, light cuddling, and affirming how much we really loved each other. We've been through some real stuff together over the years, and there's a ton of trust and affection. What do I do now? He's visiting again in a few weeks. If anyone has been in a similar situation or has advice on how to get clarity on what I really should do, I'm honestly open to hearing it. I feel like I would have shut this down with any other guy friend, but I don't know if I'm just lonely and vulnerable right now, or if this is really something that I want. What should I do? I think you really do have to just weigh the options, but I think from the outside looking in, it really looks like you guys already have a very high connection. Like, you never know. It might be a situation worth pursuing to some degree. You can even try and take it slow. I mean, you're both old enough to know how to do that at this point, hopefully, and you can maybe articulate that you want to try and take this slow if he's interested. So in my opinion, I say just go for it. You never know unless you try, and if he really is as good of a friend as you're saying, then I'm sure he would be understanding, and he would still want to be just friends with you if he doesn't feel the same way. But nothing ventured, nothing gained. So you might as well try and make some kind of move while you have the chance, because truly, who knows what could happen. An entitled Karen comes into our restaurant demanding food that we don't offer, and when she gets food that she doesn't like, she freaks out and storms into the kitchen to give me a piece of her mind, and I honestly could not be more shocked. Here's what happened. So for context, I had fairly recently started working as a server, and I wasn't fully familiar with our menu, and this was my first time dealing with an insane customer. Luckily, I have some pretty thick skin, and it didn't get to me for the most part, but it was crazy to experience how wacky some people can act. I was working the 11 to 5 shift, and the 10 to 3 server had just left, and the 3 to whenever server hadn't arrived yet, so it was just me in the front as well as the 2 cooks in the back. The restaurant was empty after the lunch rush when the phone rang. I answered with my typical greeting, and the lady on the other line immediately cut me off, telling me her order that she wanted. But I needed to know if this was a to-go order before I could enter the food items in our system. As I started to ask if it would be a dine-in or takeout situation, she cuts me off again and says, "We'll be there in like 5 minutes, just have it ready," and very promptly hangs up on me. I think to myself, great, whatever she ordered wasn't going to be ready in 5 minutes, but I put it in anyways. But even better still, nothing she ordered was on the menu, which is one of those situations where you think, oh well, when she shows up, we'll figure it out when she gets here. And sure enough, 5 minutes later, in she struts with her sheepish boyfriend in tow. She plops down in a booth and kicks off her shoes and kicks her bare feet up. I walk over with a smile and 2 menus, and she yells at me that she doesn't need a menu. She just ordered on the phone. I let her know that we don't actually offer burritos because this is a burger place. And when I said that, she looks at me and says, "Well then, what do you offer then?" I tried to answer that question by handing her a menu, but she rejects it again. "Do y'all have tacos?" I say, "No, but we do have barbecue chicken quesadilla. Do you want to try that?" She looks at me in annoyance and says, "Fine, whatever." The sheepish boyfriend had taken a menu and decided to order a Caesar chicken salad. I go to the back and I start making the salad, and I can hear her on her phone loudly complaining about me and calling me all kinds of vile things. Their food comes out and she takes 1 bite and spits it out in front of us. She starts screaming, "Why is there barbecue on this?" By now, the general manager was aware of what was going on, so he went out there to try and handle the situation. He comes back into the kitchen with a quesadilla to make a new one without barbecue. And what happens next absolutely blew my mind, as this entitled Karen crossed a line I never expected. Seconds later, the lady burst into the kitchen and actually said, "Actually, I don't even want it anymore." She then turns to me and starts to scream at me about how she was a server once and decided to give me some advice about how to do my job. Mind you, she went back into the kitchen to try and give me this advice, but I just looked at her with a sweet smile and thanked her for the advice. She then stormed out of the restaurant. Her sheepish boyfriend stayed to finish his salad and came up to the register to pay. He said to me, "I'm very sorry," and left a great tip for me on his way out, which may be the only good thing that came out of this interaction. What an absolute weirdo. This lady not only calls in trying to secure her order, which by the way, that's very strange for a sit-down restaurant, but she also comes in and kicks her shoes off and puts her bare feet on the table. That alone is absolutely disgusting. And unfortunately, it's not that crazy to assume that that could happen, especially when you consider that this lady is a server and she sees weird entitled Karens like this all the time. It's almost like this lady just did not know where she was in the slightest. She not only did not know what was on the menu, but she also freaked out when there was barbecue chicken on her quesadilla, despite the fact that she's like, "Yes, I'll have that." I mean, at that point, you just gotta get a grip, in my opinion. So hopefully, if anything, the boyfriend in this situation can come to his senses and see exactly who he's dating, because it sounds like he's conditioned to the way she acts on a daily basis, and hopefully he can see through these temper tantrums and find somebody who won't embarrass him in public. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. I ghosted my ex-boyfriend because I was tired of his lazy attitude and his lack of motivation in life. And now, after so long, he sends me an email demanding to know why I ghosted him, and I honestly don't know what to do. So I'm a 40-year-old female, and I used to date a man by the name of Mickey. That's not his real name. This was a long time ago, and he used to be my lifelong crush. I was super happy to find out that we had excellent rapport. Our conversations were deep. He showed me a very loving and compassionate side that was completely separate from the shallow jock I remember that he was. So needless to say, we go really far back. We would talk every day. Personal meetings were very fulfilling. I love that he seems super down to earth. Back then, I was still trying to get my goals off the ground because he had unfulfilled ambitions, and this was eating him up. I told him that he needed to get back on the horse and keep fighting. Whenever he asked for advice, I helped him out. For some context, he got fired from 2 of his dream jobs, and he basically lost everything. Eventually, I began to notice that he was incredibly lazy and was unwilling to do anything out of his comfort zone. I mean, he refused to learn any new skills, and he simply refused to do anything to try and build his resume up in any way, shape, or form. It simply did not interest him. I encouraged him to update his certification, and he promised to produce the certificate after he said he was certified, But in the end, that never happened, and he just ended up giving me a very vague explanation that led me to believe that the certificate in question wasn't even issued to him. Eventually, he stopped getting in touch. I can't say I was hurt or that I cried, but I was honestly mortified. At that point, I felt like I'd just been played. His subsequent calls were only to ask for favors at that point, and that really upset me. I didn't do anything that he asked because it made no sense after months of low contact with him. I took a long, hard look at our relationship, and I forced myself to understand that he had unhealthy patterns. His last two ex-girlfriends had very serious mental health conditions. They were both diagnosed with schizophrenia and had psychotic episodes. One also had bipolar disorder. He expressed satisfaction during one of our last conversations on how he relied on female friends just to get stuff done for him. He even admitted that he recruited his female contacts to verbally attack an ex-girlfriend on Facebook and to eventually have her profile basically deleted. And this brought me back to really think about his ex-girlfriends. And I felt that quite possibly he would only try to get with them or be around them for his own benefit. For example, one was very wealthy and lived in opulence, but he eventually had to move to his own place when they broke up. And another one let him move in after he lost his second best job and she just lives on a good pension. It really seemed like he was targeting vulnerable women just for his own gain. He then sent me an urgent text message stating that he needed my help right away. He was about to go into a job interview, and apparently he needed coaching to try and write his resume, but I wasn't up for it. So I sent him a link with instructions, which he complained were too complicated. And in return, with him acting like a spoiled child, I ghosted him completely. He called, and after ignoring his call, I decided just to call him back and decline his request and just get it over with. He didn't even take my call, but wrote me back that he's actually too busy to talk right now. And after that, I just blocked him on everything, and I made sure that he would never have access to me ever again. I had already outlined his resume months earlier, but I guess he was too lazy to even retrieve that from his email. To be honest, I think he's just a complete loser. His work history is full of inactive gaps, and everything is truly underwhelming. What turned me off was his willingness to let someone else do the hard work for him. He literally had no drive in his life. Fast forward, and I actually have an email from him after such a long time. He wishes me the best, among other things, and is currently begging me to tell him why I disappeared. Now, I hate lying, and I don't think it's okay just to say, I cut you off because you're a complete leech, and I think you're a complete loser. Frankly, I ghosted him because I felt that even talking to him was truly to no avail. I honestly just want to close this door for good and move on with my life, but I'm honestly not sure how to do it, and I don't know what to do. It really sounds like your ex-boyfriend is a complete leech. I mean, it really does sound like he just plays his ex-girlfriends for his own benefit, and that's about it. Like, he doesn't consider anybody else's feelings, and he just wants people to basically run his life for him, which really is not fair for you or anybody else he's ever dated. That's honestly super toxic, and you can do so much better than that. I think you also need to realize that you really don't need to explain yourself to this guy. Like, he does not deserve any kind of explanation in the slightest. If he's not self-aware enough to see exactly how toxic he's been and how he basically takes advantage of people left and right, then he really is the one with the problem, and he should figure that out for himself. Because I bet you're the first person to ever put your foot down and say, nope, I'm not talking to you anymore. And it probably completely blew his mind that you brushed him off and ghosted him. So whatever you decide to do, just know that you have it right. This guy is a complete loser, and you 100% don't owe him a single thing. My boyfriend threw a temper tantrum after I asked him very kindly to please trim his beard, as it bothered me when it touched my cheek. And now, because I said that, he's acting incredibly childish, and I honestly don't know what to do. So my boyfriend does not really give lots of attention to his appearance, so he really doesn't do much about clothing or about the way he appears. The other day, I asked him sweetly by text message, stating, hey, if you wanted to, could you trim your facial hair the next time we meet? Because it hurts my face when we're close to each other. I also continue telling him that I think you look better in my eyes with your facial hair trimmed as opposed to it just being grown out. When I sent him that, he only pressed the like button, which usually happens when he is mad. So the next time we meet up, he came without his facial hair trimmed, which was okay, but I felt something was wrong. And later, he started a discussion asking me if my attraction to him is influenced by something so trivial as facial hair. I responded to this by saying, no, I like that too, but I honestly find you much more attractive if you take care of your your facial hair, as well as your appearance in general, instead of just leaving it unkept. And after he said that, he finally said, "It's okay if you ask me, but you shouldn't be telling me what you like, because I already knew that." Now, as a side note, his facial hair is not fully developed. It has random patches, as well as lone curly hairs at random places. The last time he trimmed it was when he went for a haircut at a barber 5 weeks ago. So the result was long hairs and patches, and it really was not pleasant to the eye, and it just did not look good, nor did the feeling of it rubbing against my cheeks feel good at all either. He didn't seem satisfied with my answer, so he then said, "This is like you're trying to micromanage my appearance. This is who I am, and I find it extensive and exhaustive to trim my facial hair more than once every 2 weeks." Now, when he said this, I was taken aback, and I explained to him that it was okay not to do that. But I then asked, "Don't you care about how I feel about your looks? It's not like I was asking you to shave your hair every day with a razor. I'm just asking you to trim it back just a little bit." He then said, "It shouldn't matter if you love me. If you want a guy that's regarding himself as a jewel and is taking care of his appearance all the time, that is not me. I find that kind of cringy." At that point, I ended the conversation because I found it absolutely exhaustive to fight over something so trivial, but I can't shake the feelings that he really started this argument for something so benign and easy to do. The next day, he came home again untrimmed and asked me, "So, were you expecting me to come in with my hair trimmed again?" And at that point, I just didn't even reply. It's too exhausting and it's starting to not be worth my time. And at this point, I don't know what to do. Your boyfriend's being a little overdramatic, don't you think? I mean, it's just facial hair, and he really is contradicting himself left and right. He said that he doesn't really care about his appearance and highly implied that he won't be taking care of his appearance anytime soon. And his excuse to not want to shave every 2 weeks is really, really lazy in my opinion. Like, that literally would just take 5 minutes, if anything, to take care of. So he's being really ridiculous. I think this might be a case where this guy just doesn't like people telling him what to do, so he will go against the grain just to try and prove some kind of weird point. And in my opinion, that's just like super toxic. There's no need for that. It's just really weird. And if anything, that in and of itself is incredibly cringy. And to top it all off, he doesn't even have a good beard. The original poster described it as having patches and basically having something akin to like some kind of neck beard. And if that's the case, I can completely understand where this lady's coming from, where she's asking him to try and trim it down because it feels weird against her face, and she simply doesn't like it. I really don't think this was that big of a deal, but the boyfriend in this situation escalated this into something that was absolutely crazy. So hopefully you can work out this situation, because your boyfriend's being an absolute moron right now, and it really would just take about 5 minutes for him to trim down his beard and have some semblance of a clean appearance. My family is giving me an ultimatum, forcing me to choose between my boyfriend or them, and at this point, I don't know what to do. So I have been dating my boyfriend by the name of Charlie for just over a year. Charlie is not his real name. My mother and I were talking about Christmas and what our plans were going to be. I had invited Charlie to Christmas last week, and I relayed this to my mother. Christmas is going to be hosted at my mother's sister's house. I was then informed by my mother that Charlie is not welcome at my aunt's house for Christmas. For some backstory, there was an incident that happened in the summer, which my mother and aunt found out about, and ever since then, my relationship with both of them has changed for the worst. Basically, the way Charlie treats me and our romantic relationship was to both of them incredibly disgusting, and they jumped to some awful conclusions that definitely were not true in the slightest, and things have been extremely rocky ever since then. It was something private that honestly is really nobody's business, but they definitely made it their business. I attempted to defuse the situation at the time, but my mother was having none of it, and has been threatening to tell my father all about our love life. My mother and aunt really do believe that Charlie is treating me terribly, which is so far from the case it's not even funny. My aunt then went home and told her husband, my uncle, about what she saw, and now as a result, he also hates Charlie. Now, Charlie and his family already suspect that my family does not like him. Charlie's mother is constantly making comments about his lack of coming over to my house to build a relationship with my family. Comments about me hanging out with one of my brothers and sister-in-law and not extending the invitation to Charlie in the slightest. To be honest, Charlie's mother sticks her nose in our relationship, and it is quite exhausting. But this is a completely different issue. My mother told me in September that no one in my immediate family likes Charlie, and it's not for the initial private reason that we discussed. And I'm just feeling very hurt and upset about the whole situation. My mother proceeded to gaslight gaslight and manipulate me by telling me that this may be one of my father's last Christmases. He has had 3 mini strokes in the past year and has issues with his balance, memory, speech, and it all really is starting to go downhill for him. She then says that none of my brothers will ever treat Charlie as a friend or a family member, and that Charlie is just another boyfriend, and he's not my fiance or my husband. She also threw in that next year when I have my own plans, I can do whatever I want. I can come to family get-togethers, I can come and go as I please, and I can even go no communications with everyone that I want. She basically laid out every option to me, and I was honestly just shocked, and I didn't say a single thing to that. I have been trying really hard over the last 6 months to mend this relationship, to try and fix things and be more present at home. I was spending a lot of time with my boyfriend at his house, as well as with his family, and ever since then, I have scaled back dramatically. And for this to be dropped on me all of a sudden is just a major blow. The conversation ended with my mother actually giving me an ultimatum. She said I can either have Christmas at my aunt's house without Charlie, or I can have Christmas with Charlie and his family. So now I'm at a point where I don't know how I'm going to be able to show my face at my aunt's house after this. So do I now go to Christmas at my aunt's house without Charlie? Or is there another route that I should go? I just do not know what to do, because either way, I disappoint someone very important to me, and I will be the one ending up very heartbroken and very hurt. And at this point, I don't know what to do. Your mom is being incredibly toxic. For starters, the fact that they're putting their nose in your business is absolutely disgusting in my opinion. I spared some details in the beginning of this story about their romantic relationship, but needless to say, the things that they were getting upset about really is nobody else's business but the original poster and Charlie, and I'll just leave it at that. But when it comes to your mom actually giving you an ultimatum of any kind, this is like narcissist 101. Anytime there's some kind of ultimatum that pops up in conversation, that in my opinion is a massive red flag, and that should be a very clear indication that what's happening currently is not right. So hopefully this can all work out for you, because it really does seem unfair for you to have to choose between your boyfriend or your family, and hopefully there's some kind of future where Charlie is welcomed back into the family and there won't be so much tension in your lives. My partner's mother is unbelievably toxic and truly will be the reason why I choose not to marry him, because of the way she treats me. And I'm at a loss and I really don't know what to do, because my boyfriend refuses to address these issues with her and draw some kind of boundaries to prevent her from treating me like garbage all the time. Here's what happened. So I have been in a relationship with John for the last decade. John is not his real name. Due to circumstances surrounding my family, I've lived with him, first with housemates and now on our own, for the last 9 years. We have had our issues over the years, but we've worked hard to get through them. We are now in a better and more stable and secure place than we have ever been. And right now, we're talking about marriage and children far more seriously than we ever have in the past. Now, the only issue in all of this is his mother and his immediate family unit. His extended family are amazing people, and tellingly, none of them have anything to do with John's immediate family. They are such a point of contention that even at the age of 20, I told John I didn't want to ever marry him for no other reason other than his mother. We'll call her Anna. That's not her real name. Anna essentially took one look at me 10 years ago and decided I was not good enough for her son, but she took it to such extremes. For example, the first time I ever visited her, under a year into our relationship, she felt it was appropriate to passive-aggressively comment about me choosing not to wear makeup to dinner in the torrential rain that we were experiencing that day. At this said meal, she and her friends openly trashed on the fact that John paid for me and that we didn't split the bill right then and there. After that visit, she relayed to John that she didn't approve of me because apparently to her, she decided that I didn't shower enough. And she determined that because I didn't wash my hair every day, that meant I wasn't showering at all. A year or so later, Anna and her husband Bill and their 2 sons came to help us move, along with my parents. My mom caught Anna complaining to Bill about how lazy I was and the fact that I wasn't helping by carrying boxes up and down stairs, but instead I was just unpacking. My mom reminded Anna that I have a fairly well-hidden physical disability that affects my coordination and movement, so that wasn't easy or safe for me like it was for everybody else. Anna just went silent and didn't even bother to apologize for saying that stuff about me. And these are just a few examples that really illustrate her character. There have been many many more comments made about me, and probably even more than I've even been told about. And ever since then, I have only seen her twice. It's made easier by the fact that she doesn't care to visit her son and expects him to go to her. And of course, I am never invited to any of these plans, and I'm completely fine with that. Recently, John has been rather obviously hinting that he's going to be proposing soon. I want to marry him, I really do. But the big issue for me is that he never argues against anything his mother says, and that's whether it's concerning me or not. He just brushes off whatever she says and claims that this is just the way she is, and there is no point in starting an argument over it because she's never going to change anyways. I've been telling him for years that I need him to understand that either he has my back and he puts her in her place, or our marriage will not include her family and neither will the lives of our future kids. And that is a hill I am honestly willing to stay on in this relationship. However, every time I have brought this up in the past, he will entertain this topic for about 5 minutes and then he just shuts it off and stops engaging in the conversation. So I guess my actual question through all of this is just that. How do I communicate that this is a very serious boundary for me, and that if he wants to marry me, then this is something we absolutely have to address? So let me get this straight. After 10 years, he is still unwilling to stand up to his mother and tell her basically to get lost and mind her own business when it comes to you and your relationship with him? I mean, that is a big red flag in my opinion. He needs to stand on his own 2 feet and tell these people to basically get lost. And this has been going on for over a decade. I mean, just imagine how badly this mom's gonna treat you when you finally do get married and have some kind of kids in your life. She's gonna demand that you come over with the kids, and she's probably gonna treat them like garbage as well. There really is no fixing the situation with your mom, aside from your husband getting involved and setting a very clear line in the sand, and basically telling her, hey, this is my wife. You're not gonna talk to her like that, and you're not gonna make these kind of nasty remarks ever again. Otherwise, you are out of my life. I don't think that's an unreasonable thing. If he really loves you, he will recognize that the way his mom is acting is incredibly toxic and completely inappropriate moving forward. So hopefully he understands where you're coming from, because otherwise this is going to be a rough marriage if you do decide to go through with it. His mom is toxic, and she really does not deserve any part of either of your lives. An entitled Karen makes false accusations of harassment at work, all with the sole intention to try and get as many people fired as possible. And I honestly have never been more disgusted with another person's actions in my life. Here's what happened. So whenever I'm at work, I usually tend to stay on my coworker's good side, and I never start any trouble, while other coworkers do try to start things between themselves, and somehow I always end up being part of it. Usually I remain neutral throughout the issue, or I try not to get involved with the main source of the issue. But this coworker in question went about making false accusations about our head cashiers, as well as the cashier supervisor and even a fellow associate from a different department, stating that all of them were harassing her. And this even got to the point that one of them was fired and the others were given harsh warnings. So this entitled Karen would always complain about everything. She would complain about where she was stationed at, her lack of hours, even though she's technically giving away her hours or calling out, and calling the manager's store phone number, claiming that the head cashier is apparently abusing her by making her stay outside in the garden center and refusing to let her wear a winter coat despite the head cashier giving her time to go get her coat, only for this entitled Karen to then say, "No, it's fine, I don't need a coat." Then she calls management sobbing that she's cold and wasn't allowed to go get her coat in the first place. This caused our head cashiers and our department supervisor to almost get fired multiple times. Luckily, the cameras were there to back up their claims, and they got a write-up along with several warnings. Eventually, some of the cashiers pointed out that most of the time, this Karen of a coworker doesn't actually work, and actually spends most of her shift FaceTiming with her friend. Then, about a week later, a cashier was fired, and this is all because this entitled Karen figured out which cashier outed her to management and made up some kind of sob story about the cashier harassing her, even when everyone else, myself included, backed up the cashier, telling management that this cashier never harassed this Karen. But unfortunately, management was sucking up to this Karen, and the cashier never came back after that. The second coworker to almost get fired was the hardware associate. He had seen this entitled Karen get her first House Depot badge for getting a lot of surveys done or something like that. So he came and gave Karen a gentle pat on her shoulder to congratulate her. Karen with the most disgusting look on her face, as if this guy had just spit in her face, screamed back at him, "Back off, don't touch me." This hardware associate was incredibly surprised and shocked at the sudden outburst that was directed right at him. He held up his hands while backing off and said to her, "Whoa, sorry, I didn't mean to startle you. I was only congratulating you for getting your first badge." But this entitled Karen doubled down. She said, "You weren't congratulating me. You were invading my personal space, harassing me, and touching me without my consent." Sally, one of our head cashiers and supervisor, tries to calm down this Karen, but the entitled Karen refused to calm down unless the hardware associate apologized for touching her without her consent and to stay away from her, to which the hardware associate did apologize and kept his distance from then on. Apparently, even after the hardware associate had apologized to the Karen, and all of the cashiers and myself included heard him say it, this entitled Karen went to management to report this guy for supposedly harassing her and also making advances towards her while they were on break together. I didn't find out until my next shift that due to this accusation, this guy nearly got fired and wasn't allowed to work for a couple of weeks until it was all sorted out. By the time everything was sorted out between the Karen and this guy, Karen had already turned in her 2-week notice because she refused to work anywhere near this guy because she claimed that she didn't feel safe around this guy, even though management had found out that this Karen lied about him making advances towards her. After this guy was allowed to return to work and the Karen quit for a safer job away from him, this guy openly said that if they did fire him, he would have been fine with it because it'll show management that they need to stop sucking up to this stupid lady as well as other entitled customers' ridiculous demands. Because in his words, all the good associates are leaving because management can't say no to bad customers or bad associates, and management would rather just suck up to somebody just to try and save their own butts. I found out that this entitled Karen had started working at Walmart near my house, and when she saw me, she asked if that guy who apparently made advances towards her still worked there. I responded by saying, "Yes, but he never did that. That's just what you said, not me or the other associates who work there." And when I said that, this entitled Karen, probably for the first time ever, just straight up shut up and walked away. But since COVID started, I haven't seen her there anymore. She probably left for another job or moved up in department status. Either way, hopefully no one she ever runs into ever has to deal with those types of false accusations ever again. The way this entitled Karen was acting is absolutely inappropriate. Like, there's just no good excuse for anything that she was doing. She was literally making things up just to try and get people fired. And sure, the one coworker probably should not have patted that lady on the shoulder, but at the end of the day, what he was doing honestly was innocent, and it did not warrant this type of reaction in the slightest. I can't stand people who act like this, and they're just finding ways to try and abuse whatever privilege they have just to try and ruin someone else's life. So hopefully karma comes back to bite her one day and gives her back exactly what she deserves, because she had no right to take away these people's jobs and to basically try and ruin someone's reputation. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. My family wants to punish my aunt for rescheduling a holiday dinner that they were planning on going to, and as a result, I'm being dragged into this family drama in a way that I never signed up for, and I honestly don't know what to do. So my aunt has always hosted most holiday dinners, and as we've gotten older, it's become much harder to get everyone together. She chooses a date and a time based on when she and her own kids are available, and then announces it to the rest of the family. If we can attend, that's great, and if not, that's just how it is. I completely understand that trying to coordinate 25 plus adults during the holiday season is nearly impossible, and if she were to ask about everyone's availability, she would inevitably end up having to choose a date that she knew someone wasn't available for, and that would create a whole other set of issues. And for the record, I've never really had a problem with how she goes about scheduling the event that she's hosting. As a side note, my mom would be happy to host, but my aunt always ends up doing it. I'm not sure if there's some kind of rivalry or hurt feelings there of some kind that I'm not aware of, but again, I don't really see the big deal. Either accept things how they are or say something and advocate for change. This year, one of my aunt's kids ended up changing their schedule at the last minute and wasn't going to be able to attend on the original date planned for the Christmas dinner. My aunt has now decided to reschedule it, and now some of the people who couldn't attend the original date are now able to join us. But now because of that, some people won't be able to make it. My sister is one who's available for the original date, but won't be able to come to the new one because she's working. I think it's important important to note that she didn't schedule any time off of work for the original date. It was just a happy coincidence that it lined up in the way that it did. Nobody was asked about availability for either date as well. My husband now thinks that we should boycott the whole thing and try and make some kind of weird point by making this big show and tell about one person missing the event by having half the family not show up in protest. This way, in his mind, this will hopefully maybe sink in that she shouldn't change the dinner. My sister is also suggesting that we just invite that whole side of the family to the Christmas dinner that I'm hosting on the 25th for my parents, my siblings, and my grandparents. I will be 31 weeks pregnant and not super keen on going from 9 people to 25 plus people, all on Christmas Day at that. We're also well aware that this aunt and her kids are the only ones who wouldn't be able to attend that day, and that to me feels like that would be really petty and toxic behavior. So I'm kind of stuck at a crossroads and I honestly don't know what to do. I honestly would not play into some weird drama that you're clearly not a part of. And good for you as well. You've managed to stay out of this garbage in a really wonderful way where you are clearly left out of the loop. And in this case, it's probably a good thing. There's clearly some family drama going on involving your aunt and this stupid Christmas party. And now your husband and your sister are trying to use your private Christmas party as some weird petty form of protest, all at the expense of your plans and your expectations. And if I was in your shoes, I would not play into that for a second. I would not start inviting more people and saying, hey, let's do this as some kind of protest, because that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life. Drama like this really does happen around the holidays, but that does not mean that you have to deal with that for a second. So if I was you, I would put your foot down and say, no, we're not inviting more people. I'm going to be 31 weeks pregnant, and there's no way I'm going to be dealing with that. And honestly, you shouldn't deal with that. They're just doing this to try and get back at this aunt for some dumb reason. And they're using you as a pawn in their stupid chess game. And I just would not play into that for a second. I'm also really on the original poster side here. If you can make the party, fantastic. But if you can't make the party, then go do something else. Like, the people who are complaining about this are all adults in this situation, right? Are they really incapable of not trying to punish a family member, all because they tried to reschedule it where their kids could show up to the dinner? Like, this honestly feels so ridiculous at this point. So hopefully all of this can work out for you, because your family's being super obnoxious and there's no reason to punish your aunt, all because she's trying to reschedule the dinner so that she can spend time with her kids on Christmas Day, which, by the way, is not that unreasonable of a request. I'm convinced that my wife's friend secretly wanted me and my wife to get a divorce behind our backs, and I'm honestly disgusted by the way she acted, and I don't know what to think. So my wife and I have been married for 2 years. After 1 year of marriage, we were going through a rough patch due to some emotional issues that led me being resentful and frustrated. At that time, my wife's friend, who my wife knew for more than 8 years and has been friends with her since they were in school, was already living with us. She moved in with us a few months ago, before this rough patch that we hit, as she came to the country we were living in for her new job. Now, I'm an introvert, but I badly needed someone to vent to. So when the rough patch hit, opening up to my wife's friend was fairly easy, as we both were always joking and talking with each other around the house. To my surprise, after only hearing my side of the story, she immediately told me to reconsider the relationship with my wife. Thankfully, I was not willing to break up with my wife, as I still cared about her. Fast forward and months went by, and this friend started making some remarks when we were both alone, or when my wife was not at home. She would say things like, if I had a man who cooked, I would literally tell him to just move in with me. Or something like, why does she always call you honey or babe? Your relationship is super unhealthy. Another time when I had to go to work out of town, she told my wife out of nowhere that I'm going to leave her one day. In another similar incident, I told this friend that I might break up and go to a different country, and she said, you can't do that alone. It would be better if you did it with someone else. And her tone really hinted that she wanted to go with me. Even when me and my wife got engaged, she never congratulated my wife or me and acted really weird about it overall. Eventually, me and this friend became kind of close emotionally. A cousin that I was very close to passed away, and my wife and I got into a huge fight. I was sitting in the balcony at around midnight with tears in my eyes when this friend came to me and started rubbing my back and tried to comfort me. Eventually, I told her about my memories with my cousin, and I just talked to her about what was going on. She cried a little bit too, and we hugged each other for a good 1 to 2 minutes. We didn't tell my wife about any of this. The point is to be noted is that this friend never even hugged my wife or even cried in front of her. She is emotionally that reserved reserved and prefers to be alone most of the time. 2 weeks later, me and my wife decided to move to another country, and as we were moving, forgot a locket that belonged to her, but I decided to try and keep it as a memory. But I very quickly realized that this was the wrong thing to do. So I texted the friend that I left the locket in the car she used to drive to drop us off at the airport. I also brought some earrings and I left it as a gift for her as well, telling her that she could keep them or throw them away or do whatever she wants with them. She thanked me for the earrings via text message, and later during the middle of the flight we were taking, I found her locket in my backpack, and I honestly don't know when she slipped her locket back in my bag. When we were standing outside the airport bidding goodbye, this friend only gave a handshake to my wife, but hugged me in front of my wife, even though she is not a hugger, and my wife strictly told her to never hug me. Once we separated from the friend, my wife and I decided to take a small break, as we were both overwhelmed. I texted this friend and I thanked her for the support that she gave me during our rough patch, and I also mentioned that I did like her as a person, but I never mentioned that I want her or anything like that in the message. But she then told my wife about this. Now, the thing that really surprised me was that she left out all the comments and remarks that she gave me when we were both completely alone, even her slipping the locket in my bag part, and told only my wife things that made me look like a complete jerk. Naturally, my wife was furious at me. It took my wife and I 4 hours for the whole talk that we had, where we decided that we wanted to stay together. A few days after this happened, my wife called this friend to ask about the job opportunity this friend told her about in Copenhagen. This friend knew someone who could help my wife with a job opportunity over there. Before answering, this friend asked my wife about our relationship situation, and my wife told her that we worked things out. And almost immediately after hearing this, she started acting weird and saying that she doesn't think that the opportunity is available anymore. And she said this in a really non-friendly tone. After that, I broke all contact with this friend, but my wife still tried to keep in touch with her. But whenever my wife tried confronting the friend for the things that she said and did behind our backs, the friend refused to answer calls and would get irritated and say that all of this is a giant mistake and then just hang up the phone. It's now been more than 6 months since then, and my wife stopped texting her, and they haven't spoken since, even though they're still friends on Facebook and Instagram. I feel bad that I ruined their relationship, but my wife says it's not my fault because she is an adult and she made these choices consciously. And my wife also revealed that this friend of hers was always extremely competitive with her. I have already apologized to my wife for my faults and promised to never repeat that ever again. Do you think that this friend either liked me or wanted to break my wife's relationship up out of jealousy? It all seems so confusing, and I honestly am not sure what to believe. First off, the original poster was spending a little bit too much time with this friend behind his wife's back. Like, honestly, the way you were connecting with her and basically using her as some kind of sounding board against what your wife is or isn't doing, or whatever rough patch you may have been going through, personally was completely inappropriate. You guys had an emotional affair, like there's no other way around it, and you really should be counting your lucky stars that your wife even decided to stay with you, because what you just described is really inappropriate. But on to your question itself, yeah, she was definitely trying to break you guys up. Like, she very clearly did not want you two to be together in the slightest, and that's not fair for you guys at all, especially when you consider the fact that she very clearly is competitive with your wife. But all that pushed aside, none of this would have happened if you hadn't started making moves on this lady. Maybe I'm rude by saying this, so please correct me in the comment section if I am, but the problems that this original poster had faced because of this lady is literally his own fault. So I think moving forward, being loyal to your wife and choosing to stay with her and spend time with her and sort out the problems with just her really would take you a long way and could completely avoid this situation altogether, as well as possibly preserve your marriage with your wife. Today, I messed up by falling in love with someone that I know for a fact is never going to love me in return, and now I truly don't know what to do. I'm a 24-year-old female, and I'm a very nice person. I love deeply and I care deeply about people. Where I mess up is that I'm giving that deep energy to people who don't want to receive it. So I've had a crush on this guy for 2 years. I met him 2 years ago as a hookup type of guy because I was moving away soon. It sucked after because I just wanted him so badly. I've always had a crush on this guy since then. Fast forward to this year, and we started talking again more consistently in July. He wanted to meet me again, and then wanted to also spend some quality time together, if you know what I mean. He's 4 hours away from me, and he's in medical school, so his schedule is very tight with time. We had tried for a few months to align schedules, and it finally happened this weekend. My dilemma here, and why I know now that I shouldn't have went, is that I like him a lot. In my eyes, he's everything I want in a life partner. I've expressed that I liked him, and he says that he likes me, but he can't do anything like that because his medical residency starts later in 2023, and he knows it will take all of his time. He's very career focused, and that's his #1 priority, besides family and religion. Plus, with that residency, he will be moving further away from me. I also think he's afraid to be emotionally available because he doesn't want it to distract from his career. I thought at one point that I had truly accepted the fact that he doesn't want anything serious at this time in his life, so I thought I'd be able to handle seeing him in person this weekend. But the moment I saw him, my heart dropped because all of my strong feelings for him came back. I didn't realize just how much I missed being around him. He's so funny and cute, very intelligent, very well-rounded. The next day when he was at work at the hospital, I just started crying by myself because all my feelings came back so strongly, and I knew he wouldn't reciprocate that in the slightest. I tried to focus on having fun and living in the moment. We went to dinner and he paid for it. We were just talking all night and having a good time. I feel so at ease around him. The last morning, I dropped him off at the airport because he's flying to his hometown for the holidays. He kissed me goodbye and said, "I'll see you later." And when I drove home, I just cried so hard. I texted him that I was grateful to spend the weekend with him and thanked him for taking the time out of his schedule to have me over. I told him that I miss him way more than I realized after seeing him in person, but he never replied back. But he did send me some money for gas. I keep thinking about the what ifs. Does he see me as a potential partner for him in the future? Does he feel a connection like how I do? I keep wanting him to know how I feel, that I have the patience and support and the love that he might want and need. I want to be a rock for him. I want to be there for him through all of it. I'd do anything to make something work, but I know all of that is useless because he won't open up his heart and try. He says he's narrow-minded with it. I know I should have let him go when he told me that he didn't want anything serious. I should have moved on earlier. I should have listened to what he said and believed him when he said he doesn't want anything serious. It's like I can't stop thinking why. Why am I not good enough for him to try something with me? Why can't he see what I could give him? Why does he have to close himself up? Am I not pretty enough? Am I not good enough? I think I got hung up on all the small things. When he says he likes me, when he says he was so excited to see me, when he gave me a kiss goodbye and everything in between. It's all my fault though. I know I'm not obligated to get a text back, and I know I'm not obligated for him to open up to me or to tell me how he feels about me. It's all so very heartbreaking and confusing, and I don't know what to do. First off, I think you need to realize, in my opinion, that you just got played. This guy literally only brought you out so he could spend some quality time with you for a few days and then basically ghosted you. This guy's living a double life. He's spending quality time with you on the side while also professing that his family and his religion is some kind of priority. But I can guarantee you, if this is what he's doing on the side, those other two things that normally mean something to other people is probably just some big facade for this life he's living. And I think the sooner you realize that, the better. Also, this entire post, in my opinion, came off as very desperate. He really does not feel the same way towards you, and it's really unfortunate. He clearly just wanted a hookup, and it's obvious he's never gonna pick you over his career. And what's worse is you probably already know that. You probably know he's never gonna pick you over his career, but he still invited you anyways. And this just perpetuated this idea of, well, what's wrong with me? What did I do? Trust me, the problem's not with you. The problem's with this guy and his lack of morals and the fact that he's playing on your emotions. But you truly are giving yourself a disservice, as well as basically stifling any type of emotional growth by holding on to this fantasy that this guy's ever gonna bring you into his life. You can do so much better than this scumbag who only invited you over for some kind of hookup. So hopefully this works out for you in some kind of way, and you can find it in yourself to find another person who really will love you in the way that you want to be loved in return. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications. To finish listening to all the stories, check out the playlist at the top of the description. And if you like Am I the Jerk, make sure to subscribe to Am I the Genius. Everything will be linked down below in the description.